Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Enemies, kind mothers. Welcome to Wake Up and Think Clearly. Clear. Welcome. Say hello to my friend enemy. Oh, there we go. There we go. Wash your hand. Wash your hand. Wash your hand. Wash your hands. Right here. Lávate las manos. So today is Monday, April. I think it's April 4th. Let's see. Today, Monday, right? April 4th. April 4th day. April 4th day. No, not April Fool's Day. It's April 4th day. Wait. No, lávate las manos. Lávate las manos con jabón. Aquí que está calientito. Con jabón. Eche jabón. Sí, jabón. So, let's explore the word death for a minute. Because we had Easter and we had celebrated the resurrection, the conquering of death. Well, in Jesus Christ Superstar, the rock opera, there's the lyric that says, to conquer death, you only have to die. Sí. Así póngalo ese aquí. Póngalo aquí. No, ya lo puse aquí. No. To conquer death, you only have to die. What the hell does that mean? No, that could mean that to die is the process of dying. No. Maybe I should say it another way. Para allá, para tu cama. Now you can go back to bed, sleep. You can go back to sleep, Basilia. Right here. Okay. Wait. Go to sleep.
Eso.
There.
Eso. Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Ay, qué dicha. Ay. Mm. Ay,
Duerma, mi niña.
bueno.
Unas 2 o 3 horas. Y después desayunamos. Lunes, abril 4.
¿Ah?
Estamos el lunes, abril 4. Okay. So, so to conquer death, you only have to die. Let's look it up on my iPad. On this. Let's see. To conquer death, you only have to die. Like maybe it'll say where it came from in the Bible. Here's here's the lyrics. Neither you, Simon, nor the 50,000, nor the Romans, nor the Jews, nor Judas, nor the 12, nor the priests, nor the scribes, nor doomed Jerusalem itself understand what power is, understand what glory is, understand at all. To conquer death, you only have to die. Where is that? Oh. Where is it? Quotes. Let's see. I'm on page. Yeah. Death, you only have to die. Welcome. Welcome, Domenic. How are you?
Good morning, Jay.
Good morning. April 4th day.
It is.
Oh no, it's April 5.
Is it? Let me check. Yeah, you're probably right. There they go, April 5th.
5th.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
We missed a day.
Yes. So how are you?
Myself, Jay, I'm pretty good. Yourself?
Pretty good.
I was just watching your Facebook post of them building a temple. I like construction, so quite fascinating.
You do?
Yeah, I'm an electrician by trade, so I've worked with tin before. So, but yes, it's a lot of small details, and got to be good with your hands and tools.
Yeah. My brother Ivan is into construction all his life, and he's formed a large company.
Good for him.
And I work for him. Yeah.
What part of construction? What does he do? Like, what do you guys do in construction?
Yeah, exterior walls, like the envelope or covering, sometimes inside the buildings on big projects. Try to get like the walls that they apply something like a synthetic stucco.
Mhm.
ephes. Mm, and yeah, sometimes they do drywall. Sometimes they do stone. And put mm, what is it? Foam. Yeah, for shapes.
Hmm.
Hmm, what- Whatever the project requires, I guess.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's good to
Um,
learn it. It's good to learn, see how it's applied, their end result. For most people, they're just fascinated by the end result. But for the guys like ourselves, to get to that point.
mm. Yes, you appreciate uh, construction of homes,
Hmm.
maybe
Oh, homes, and even in commercial buildings.
commercial building. Hmm. Have you ever had to build a home or renovation of a home?
Being an electrician, I participated in both of those. From beginning to end, no, that's not a fantasy of mine, actually. I've had a lot of buddies, that's what they do. But for me, whether I've framed with some guys, I've, helped some buddies do plumbing, but my craft is electrical. So you give me
Mm.
electrical part from top to top, from beginning to end, that's my role.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure everything is in NEC requirements, or what is it called?
By the code, you mean?
The codes.
Oh yeah, that's a given.
The,
That's for me, that's a
the,
given.
the codes pretty much the same in Canada as in the US.
There's some peculiar difference, but overall, it's like I explained to the guys I used to work with. I'm not just interested in codes. I'm interested in how codes come to be. A lot of inspectors I've actually had chances to talk to them. I said, "You're enforcing a code, but you don't understand the code." A lot of it has to do with insurance. Like
Mm.
for example, in Canada, probably in the States is no different. There's three code books. One code book is the one that me as an electrician uses. Then there's the manufacturer code book, and then there's the insurance code book. And most electricians only see the last code book. So to understand that a lot of things that for safety reasons is not just it's not for humans, just so they are safe, is because it's insurance. It's always about money.
Mm.
Same with manufacturer. When they design certain kinds of equipment, it's not for the betterment of humanity, it's for the betterment of streamlining when they're manufacturing the product. So my job at the end, Jay, is just to be putting Legos together. Like
Mm.
it's pretty straightforward. It's no different with drywalling and taping and all that kind of stuff. It's a craft. Don't get me wrong. I have a couple of buddies. That's what they've done. They've done taping. I'm more like a weekend taper, a couple holes here and there. But to actually do a whole house, no, it's a craft. It's like shingling. So
Mm. The
yes.
code. So is the code for insurance gonna be more detailed, or or it's pretty much the same?
No, the insurance, the code book for the insurance is probably bigger. It's because you got to deal with legalities. This is all about lawsuits. It's like I
Oh.
remember I worked with one buddy one time, Gino, one of my friend Gino, and he owns a tile and flooring company. And I've done I've done clip-on floors before, not just laminate, the ones that you use nails with. And I've done it with a couple of other buddies. And when I went to work with him one day, he had to slow me down because I'm pretty quick at my job, and but he had told me, he said, "Dominic, no, you got to put the nails every 8 to 10 inches." And I said, why so? Even though I know that's spec, he says it's for manufacturing purposes. If all of a sudden the floor warps down the road, they'll bring in a specialist, and he'll go around with a special magnet. And if there's any nails that's not 8 inches apart, 8 to 10 inches, you're paying that out of your own expense if you want to fix it. So yeah.
Wow.
This is all about business, Jay. Like I said, in the end, it looks nice. Even for construction workers, it looked nice, but a lot of it has to do with commerce. So
Mm. So 8 to 10 inches, you could do every 6 inches, or that would be wrong
you could
too.
no, well, 6 inches is an overkill, but yeah, it's how sometimes when you put those floors, they can buckle. So this is the manufacturer insurance way of saying they've done tests in manufacturer, and they say that more times than not, it doesn't buckle. But even if it does buckle, you follow by their standards, they'll replace it. Because, you know, things happen, right? It could be a lot of things. Like if they find out later on that you put it on a moist floor, but that would be something once they tear it open, or they go underneath the basement and cut out a hole. Like there's a lot of small factors, especially if it's a small job, most manufacturers will pay the money. But if it's a big job, the manufacturer, it's like when an airplane crashes, they're not trying to figure out, oh, we're going to report it. No, they're doing damage control first. You know, how much can we get sued for? That's business. Actually, I had a conversation in one of the meetups Saturday after I had finished the meetup with you guys. A person had presented the conversation about rights. Are your rights taken away if they force you to have COVID? I mean, sorry, a vaccine. And I eventually listened to a bunch of guys, and then I chimed in and I said, well, nobody can do nothing. Nobody can ever make you do anything per se, but if they attach commerce to the vaccine, then you're going to want to take the vaccine, because if you want to travel, or if you want to work for a job, or if you want your pension, there is no such thing as rights when it comes to commerce. You know, so for most people, they're not going to be taking the vaccine because of health reasons. They're going to be taking it because of commerce. I can't go grocery shopping. I can't go get gas in my gas station. That's commerce. You know, I don't know where humans ever got the ideal that rights is something that's given. There is no such thing as rights given to you. It's something, I don't think even the word right needs to be discussed. You're your own, you know, I've kind of discussed in the one that you were holding. You're your own sovereign being. You choose to play the game of being in governments, or go to church, or believe in science. Those are things that you choose to do. Most people never investigate deep enough to realize behind the stage is the Wizard of Oz. You know, it's men. It's a man behind it playing a game. Most of them are dead now, but it's a game. You know, so. Like even when people do the vaccine, COVID testing, they don't really understand what that is. Nurses and doctors don't understand what that is. They're just taking a swab that was given to them from a lab, and then they put it in your nose, put it in a little container, bring it to a lab. They're giggling and they say, listen, just send it back. Say, tell them it's positive. It's all a game. It's all a game. You'll know when you have a flu. You'll know when you have a flu. You'll know when you're sick. It's not one of those things where they do a screening. You know, it's like, you know, you can do a lot to the mind. You can tell a person you're going to die in 6 months. His body will do everything to validate that if he believes he's going to die in 6 months. Just to get onto that conversation, you know.
Wow. Yes, I had COVID-19 early this year, and I recovered, but I was in the hospital 10 days. And I had pneumonia, and they gave me everything, remdesivir and steroids and injections in the belly to keep my blood thin.
You feeling healthier now?
And yes, I recovered well. And I can breathe pretty good now.
Do you know your blood type?
No.
No, okay, because that plays a role in it too.
Really? Why is that?
No, just think about it. Blood type. It's like if you put vinegar instead of oil in your salad, it's different. So A's are different than AB's. AB's are more of an enigma. Most people, and I can't say all people, most people are O. That's why they can give blood.
I think I'm O. Something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, that's the thing, you know. And then women more times than not are A's. Most miscarriages are based on because women are A. Even the type of work that you gravitate is based on your blood type. A lot of A's are more or less farmers, like even though we live in cities, but if they were they would have been farmers. ABs are more hunters. Sorry, they're hunter-gatherers. It's the O's that are the hunters. You know, so
Wow.
yeah. I'm an AB. I'm more of an enigma. I can actually roam within the city. You know, I don't lean towards one or the other. Like think about A and ABs together, right? So, and I'm probably one of the rare blood types. I can't give blood to other people, but I can accept it. So
Wow.
yeah. But even that's questionable. Should we even be giving blood to each other? But that's another conversation. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
But does the blood type affect what happens in the hospital?
Well, nobody really wants to be in the hospital. You don't want to be, even though sometimes we are forced to, but you don't want to be in with a bunch of other people that are sick. But some of the things that you can get, like a virus or bacteria, yeah, oh, for sure, that it plays a major role. It also plays a major role in how a person recovers. So,
Are some blood types better at recovering than others?
some of them, AB positive, very rare, like rarer than even AB negative. They're more times than not, they're not going to get any kind of disease. Their body resists most things.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Mm.
O's, I think part and partial because they're more or less the meat eaters of the bunch. It depends on how they eat the meat. Like most of us, Jay, we live in cities. So like I don't eat meat, but we live in a city and we don't hunt our own food anymore. So we really don't know how that meat's really being prepared, you know, and it's being preserved. And then a lot of times what happens when I say preserved, they're not being preserved like in the old days. They're just being waxed or whatever. And then, you know, then they have laws saying that you cannot, you know, sell this after a certain due date. And then what they do is they just take the package out, re-squish it and put it back up and change the date. That's all. People don't realize. Yeah. Well, that's legalities. You know, when you see something in the grocery stores and it says best eaten or due date or whatever, that's for legal purposes. You know, you can't have certain foods and freeze it. But remember, you got to remember when you go into a grocery store, look at it like as though you're walking into a courtroom. Everything's about legalities. Companies aren't in a business to earn money, not lose money. So, you know, people might think, well, but they're there to serve the community. No, that's the job of each individual person to get their own food. You know, like a cat or a dog, or maybe not a dog. Well, yeah, different types of dog. They spend most of their days either sleeping or hunting. You know, so we live in a society of comforts, Jay.
Wow. So I should check for sure what my blood type is.
Sure.
And if I'm O, then you said that I'm a hunter and meat eater,
Well, more
or
times
that,
than more times than not.
or
That's
that's my tendency would be.
you'll get your protein more times than not. O's need their proteins in certain areas, and one of them is meat. Not all blood types need to get protein from meat. This is why when somebody will say, you know, but I'm a meat eater and I like eating meat, I said, okay, but you have to understand other things, not just the fact that you like it. You know, it's about, you know, it's like women, you know, it's some women can process meat more than other women, and same with guys. So, yeah, and even that, it comes down to different types of meat. You know what I mean? Like people that eat deer or bear or cows, you know, bison. It's they're all different, right? It's too generalizing when we say, well, I eat meat. I said, but what type? You know, it's some people like hunters will live more off of, you know, wild game. Meanwhile, hunters and gatherers will live off of chickens, pigs, you know, because that's farm animals, right? So it's like when somebody says to me, Dominic, they'll say to me, Dominic, oh, I like fish, but meanwhile they're eating seafood. I said, okay, so there's lake fish and then there's ocean fish. You know, they're all different, right? So.
You mentioned that you don't eat meat. Is that because you became vegetarian, or you've always never eaten meat?
Probably about 20 years ago, I read the Bible and I decided I wanted to go on a long fast. And then something just pulled me to say, you know something, I'm not interested in eating meat. Um,
Mm.
I've thought in it a couple times. I had thoughts of, is it for the animals? I'm like, no, because then I have to realize I wear leather belts and all that, and it's sad the way animals are treated in a sense that if you're going to eat them, make sure it's done, peacefully. Like if somebody wants to eat me, make sure I'm asleep when you kill me. You know what I mean? Because people don't understand how the blood works. So if you kill an animal, when this is why hunters try to make a clean kill, because if they don't, the meat tastes differently because now the animal's traumatized, and that traumatizing goes through the blood and then it goes through all the meat.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is why, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the animals that most people eat, like pigs and all that kind of stuff, if you ever watch a show called Earthling, they just turn the animal upside down, they cut its throat, and the animal's just a squealing, or
Wow.
another one, what they did was, oh, halal. When people say, "Oh, I do a halal," have you ever seen? I told them, I said, "Have you ever seen how they kill a cow? They put it in a big machine and they shake it to death."
Hmm?
Oh yeah, we're a pretty cruel race, Hey, but we do the same thing even with trees. They go underneath a big olive tree with a big machine and they shake it, because it's all about getting the most production out of a tree, but only, and I could defend the practice based on the fact that most of us don't grow our own food. So how would me and you, Jay, supplement a million people
Mm.
constantly? We would have to do a lot of things that aren't, healthy for nature.
Mm.
It's like when you do fishery, when people complain, you hear the PETA,
Mm.
people yip yapping and complaining. I personally think they're on the same team with the corporations. What they do is they drop a big net down in the ocean and then all kinds of fish, dolphins get caught and all that. But how would you catch millions of fishes?
Mm.
It's one of those things where it's easy to be a backseat driver, but to actually be involved, even the people that work there, they're not going to really understand all the parts. I can't even say
Mm.
I understand all the parts, but I'm open enough and receptive enough to realize within that there's other pieces missing, but the ultimate part always is human factor. Human,
Wow.
we're pretty cruel as a society. As much as I want to think humanity is kind, well, that's few and far between. Because I can always tell people, I said, so then explain to me the millions of guns and tanks we have.
Mhm.
Like,
Wow.
yeah.
You,
Go ahead.
you are an agitator.
I shouldn't
You
be.
are,
I shouldn't
no,
be.
you're a,
You would think everybody else would have the same kind of thoughts, and then
or you're
eventually,
a clear thinker, or you have analyzed and investigated thoroughly these matters.
I can't say thoroughly, but I can say I put thought to
Or
it.
you have.
Yeah, I question more why people don't think. People say they think, they actually don't think.
Mm.
They might go to school and say, I think. I said, no, school doesn't teach you that. It's like people saying morality. Morality is something you learn when you're very young. School never teaches morality. Most people just want to be, and I kind of mentioned to Lewis because I realized Lewis, I know him. He's not a very difficult person to understand. He might think he's confusing. He likes pleasures, which is fine.
Mm.
And most people that are rich, they don't care whether or not other people are suffering. They
Mm.
distance themselves from them. It's not the rich that are doing all of this. It's the people that work for them, which is us.
Mm.
It's, you know, to examine life would be me and you to go 100 years in the future. And then I show you, Jay, only a handful of people actually ever made anything in this generations. We go back 1,000 years, look at the pyramids, that only a few people actually ever created anything. All the rest were just workers. See, this is why when people think humanity is a very intelligent species, you know anybody that created the internet? You know people that
Mm.
own it, but you know anybody? You know anybody that made all the cars? You might know workers, but who invented all the alchemy to all of that? We don't know. This is where when people think that they're smart, I said, no. People can become smart, but then they can go towards wisdom or they become clever. And most people are just clever.
Mm.
Oh, I know that because I know when I'm being clever. Most people just don't know.
Mm.
I can observe myself. Dom, you're just being clever now. I said, yeah, I know I am. but it needs to be spoken that way, because how would another person that doesn't know he's being clever to see it from outside?
Mm,
You know, it's like when
mm,
people say things to me and they're projecting. I say, listen, would you like your mirror back? Because you're projecting onto me what you think of yourself. Now, there is human traits that we all do have. We have moments of kindness, moments of hideousness. You know, we can be cruel to each other, and one of the way of being cruel is just being neglectful.
mm.
You know.
Yes,
Hmm.
neglecting,
Hmm.
neglecting our nearest people, our closest persons,
Hmm. And guess who the closest
Fam-
one? Guess who the closest one
family.
is? You. You know, like when you talk about yourself, Jay's been with Jay all his life. Dominic has been Dominic with all his life. Whoever
Hmm.
I think I am, because when I go to sleep, who's running the body? So there is somebody that's with me the whole time, and I've neglected it. You know, the
Mm,
outside world is only a reflection of the inside world. If I think the world's cruel outside, what do I think inside?
mhm,
You know, this is why when people think it's easy to say I love things, it's easy to say I hate things. Those are just words. But it comes down to, but do you actually implement that when nobody's around? You know.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yes, I've been neglecting me, myself, and I, and my body.
Hmm. Which is common to all of us, Jay. But at the same time, once you realize you've tried to clean up your own house as much as you can, then you have to consider outside worlds. So there's a lot of things that are around us that we cannot see with the senses, that's affecting our bodies and our mental state and our emotions. Like when you walk down the street and all of a sudden there's so much train noise or car noise, we might just think that's natural. Really? And then we walk in the forest. Why do we feel better when we're in the forest, but not when we're in the city?
Mm, mm,
No problem.
mm. So so how's uh not eating meat felt, or has it been healthier, or what?
It's probably slowed down my gluttony at best.
Mm,
You know, part and partial being European. Uh, that's not an excuse, but the Europeans more times than not eat a lot of bread. So my biggest thing has always been carbs. So my insulin goes up and down. You know, when I fasted for a long periods of time, I was able to wean off of that. But then, like anything else, I went back to it years later. So,
mm,
but eating meat was never something I really liked anyway. It was not something, you know, it was a habit. Like say living in an an age now where we can just drive your car, go to McDonald's or Burger King, or go to one of these roadhouses. I found
mm,
myself, you know, for me, it's about eating my food too quick, not chewing it enough,
mm,
eating to be full, opposed to satiation, my hunger, and lack of drinking. Those are all my. I can say it openly. Doesn't mean I practice it, but at least I'm aware of it. You know, it's like an alcoholic knows that he drinks too much, but he's not ready to do anything about it yet. Maybe talk about it. So
mm,
yeah. Most people base their foods on if they like it or don't like it. It has nothing to do with health.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, I became a vegetarian some time ago because a an Indian guru
Hmm.
came to town, and I went to the talk, and then got initiated, and then he recommended his disciples or students to become a vegetarian. So I tried that. So I've been doing that.
Do you
Well,
eat
I,
fish? Do you eat fish?
occasionally, but
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
you're a
try to
pescatarian. You're a pescatarian then.
I I I try to yeah, and I try to not eat egg either,
Hmm.
or and I'm cutting down on milk, but
Hmm.
I still eat yogurt.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You're trying. That's all you can do, Jay. I know for myself, I've been a vegetarian. I've been a pescatarian. I've been what you call it, fruitarian. I've done breatharian. I've even done urine therapy. There's many things you can do. It all depends on
Mm.
how you get your body to a certain position. So whoever this gentleman was, unless he's factoring in your blood types and your birth order and when you were born, for most people, the change of going into from a meat eating habit to we'll say a vegetarian habit, there is a change. Doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy for you, because there's some
Mm.
people, they really, a lot of it has to do how you eat your food, when you eat the food. We don't even practice of certain colors of food should be eaten at certain days. You know, that's why there's,
Wow.
so there's a lot to be said about that. Unfortunately, anybody that tells me he's a guru, I tell him he's an idiot, because one thing you could be to me is a guide. You're your own guru. Anybody that says he's a shaman, I said, no, you're a shame, but do whatever you want, but if you want to, but if they want to practice meditation, I would say to them, okay, great. Who are you listening to when you're in meditation? So this is one of these things where it's nice to practice those things. Even Buddha, whoever he was just trying to understand attachments. He wasn't as what everybody thinks he was, but if you want to practice what he was doing, hey, fill your boots. You know what I mean? The best way to science, the best thing you could do with science is when you try it yourself. The little boy that puts sand in his mouth, he's his own scientist. I don't know why people are concerned about people going to the moon when they're never going to go to the moon. And the only way they're going to know that's for sure is if they go to themselves. So to think that we're going to trust humanity, where a lot of people spend more time building guns that went to the moon, whether it did or didn't, has no use for me or you. It's bragging rights at that point. That's like saying my team won the Super Bowl. They're not my team. I get to enjoy them.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't have anybody that says he's a guru is one thing. Another thing is when you have followers and they say, I follow him. I said, that's another can of worms that I'm not interested in. But, I privately, I'll tell most gurus, I said, you're an idiot. You just don't know it yet. But hey, good luck with that.
Mm. Yeah, last night, Sunday evening on 60 Minutes, there was a lovely story about these 6 kids that maybe they were in high school or something like that, but I don't know, in some island near Australia. So they're kind of dark, or they're not white, but maybe Aboriginal, or maybe just islanders, and they protested from their school by stealing a boat and getting in, and on that boat they sailed away, but they got pushed. I guess the winds or whatever took them astray, so they got lost in the ocean, and they got shipwrecked on an island, and they didn't know where they were, and I guess the boat was useless, and so they had to survive, and they survived for 15 months, and finally somebody was in a boat that went by, and they got the attention of that boat, and they got rescued. That was an interesting story because they survived 15 months, and how did they survive? Imagine that they had to learn to uh, start a fire and keep it burning, and all day and night, I guess, and they had to learn to eat eggs from the seagulls, and catch fish, and well, at first they were eating the fish raw, but they finally figured out how to start a fire. Wow.
Question
So
that I guess you were following.
that was
What were they protesting, first of all? Because it sounds like a bunch of kids that are idiots. What were they protesting? No, really, because if I talk to any of those kids and say, listen, I understand how the body works. When did you guys start realizing you can start drinking your own pee? Because your body purifies after, and that becomes your fountain of youth. I think I heard this story. A lot of it has to do with them bullshitting a lot. But anyway, what were they protesting? What were they protesting?
or
See, that's
I guess they were defiant as like teenagers are.
okay. So those are the
I don't
kids
know.
that, and by actually reporting that, they're giving them too much airtime. So this is where we have TV coverage, and you have reporters that aren't actually real reporters anymore, where how does it bring value? Now, if a person says to me, okay, this is spin doctoring. I'm not saying those kids are spin doctoring, but I can assure you them and their parents are probably idiots. Where, what are you protesting? Seriously, what were you protesting? Forget about you were shipwrecked 15 months, because that could be a story that you're made up. What were you protesting? If they turn around and said to me, well, Dom, we were protesting because our lunchroom was, I said, you should have died out in the fucking ocean. We don't need dumb human beings. We need human beings that are caring and people that are somewhat intelligent. You know, a person that protests is because they don't understand, they're not getting their way. That's a person that's not emotionally developed. But like I said, think about what you just heard. What were they protesting? What was the story on? How did they survive? Forget about 15 minds. Those are captions. This is how our mind becomes weak. How did they survive? Okay, they're talking about eggs. How did you get the eggs? This is kind of like Cinderella and Snow White. I want to know the next day. What are you doing? Are you on your knees scrubbing the dirt off the ground, the castle? This is too fairy tale-ish. Where I would tell somebody straight out, I said, who reported that? Well, Dom, I'm doing my job. I said, I don't give a shit about that. That's a given. Next thing you're going to tell me you get paid. No, that's a given. What are you reporting? How does that benefit me and Jay and everybody else? Because most times now, you know what that ends up being? Entertainment. That brings no value to humanity's growth at all, especially when we have a world of people that are very poor and very greedy. How do the people in the middle understand this? You know what I mean? Most people don't want to be poor, but everybody wants to be rich. But nobody wants to understand how the poor became poor and how do the rich become rich. Do you see how the schooling system fails all of us? So that's the reason why I agitate, because I realize most people are already dumb. They might think that's rude. I'm saying, are you prepared to test that? Are you prepared to go into your own room and question, I'm a doctor, but am I really smart? I'm a lawyer. Am I really smart? What do you mean? Well, I'm a lawyer, but there's so many lawyers in the world. Have we ever even helped people understand what justice is? No. A doctor says, I'm doing my job. In old communities, doctors only got paid if the community was healthy. You know, this is something for us to think about, Jay. And this is why I'm an agitator, because I'm pissed off at the human race. I think we're a disgusting fucking race. Now, there's some people that do some kind things, and then there's some people that do really hideous things. But overall, you know, even when Lewis was saying about being happy, I was trying to bite my tongue. I'm like, it's all you're living? I know when I see a clever person, when I see one. Give me a second. My little rodent wants to get out. Get out, Buffy. Now, at the same time, Jay, no offense to Lewis or whatever, I'm being my own idiot now, because I realize people are going to do what they're going to do, and that's their choice. But when a person gets into a conversation about philosophy or intellectual conversation, I would tell them, I said, take your own opinion and shove it, because this is about, philosophy is not about getting caught up in it. You're observing it from the outside. You know, when a person says to me, Dominic, I really like Socrates, I said, are you one of those people that talk about Jesus too? What do you mean? I said, I don't give a shit about who Jesus and Socrates is. What's the teachings? You know, have you ever heard a bunch of people that are Christians? Every other word that comes out of their mouth is Jesus. You ever heard of anybody, a philosopher, Hegel, Socrates, Plato? I said, you're a parrot. What was their teachings? What was the times that they were living in? You know what I mean? Like, if all of us lived in the time of Roman ruling over in Israel or whatever, how would we think? We wouldn't be Jesus. Most of us would be scared little puppies, wanting our jobs, maybe get our retirement, maybe complain about the leaders, this and that. But overall, most people would be selfish little babies.
So the story about the Lord of the Flies, I've never read it or seen the old movie about it, but it sounds like it's kind of like that shipwreck. But in that story, the little kids, they're from an English school, and they rebel, and they end up being shipwrecked on an island like that, and they end up splitting up into two groups, and they fight each other, and there's tragedy there, and that book shows that situation shows the real person in that situation, but so it sounds like human nature is that that tends towards that evilness. I don't know, or not being able to cooperate with others. But this story that they showed in 60 Minutes, that happened 60 years ago, and it shows otherwise that they were able to cooperate and make it through for 15 months and survive, and so they must have done something right there, and maybe that's showing that there's hope in humanity, that they're able to do that, in or that we are able, or maybe it was themselves, those kids, I don't know,
Well, there's a couple
or
things
the way
going
they're.
there. I was going to say there's a couple things. There's human nature and human behavior. Nature means wild. So once you put yourself back into the wild, you'll realize you've always been wild yourself. It's like my cats. If I bring my cats outside, even though they've lived most of the time with me and my wife inside, there's a confusement with them. They want to catch a bird, but they don't know how to catch a bird. That's their wild part, but their behavior's been altered. So
Mm,
to think that somebody can survive out in nature, that's us talking from a very privileged position of living in comfort. That's
mm,
arrogant. That's arrogant on our part. You know, tribal people have done it all their lives. But if you've never seen comfort, then you can actually live with where you're living. But you tell any farmer that's farmed all his life and all of a sudden now he lives in today's age, and if he tells you, I'd rather live the way I did before, it could be some of his behaviors that he probably enjoys. But overall, most farmers, if they're honest about how hard it was to work compared to today, they would have it today because they have something to
mm.
compare it to. So these young kids, because they've had other movies, there was a movie in the 70s where a bunch of, I don't know, soccer players or whatever, they crashed somewhere. And then eventually after so many weeks and months, they started eating each other. You know, that's human nature. That's human nature. That's the wild part of us. Because if you start seeing animals and they eat each other, lions do not chase any animal. Scientists have discovered a little bit about auras, and it will chase and attack the weakest aura in the pack. That's why the mother deer will stand between hers and the baby, because the mother deer is strong. So the lion does not chase that baby deer because it doesn't realize that deer's aura is not strong enough yet. So this is the fittest survives. You know, when a person puts a gun in his hand, he's not strong. He's a weakling. You know, survival means that you know how to survive for yourself. You know how to kill an animal, climb up a coconut tree and get a coconut. That's survivor. But actually killing another human being, that's just an idiot to get his food. This is why a lot of tribals eventually collapsed, because something was changing their environment and now they actually all had to be together. It's like, I don't know if you ever heard of the story. There was a guy named Moses. He was not Moses, the biblical story. Moses, the guy from New York. In the 80s in New York, they were building all these major freeways through Manhattan. And what they did was, because they were disrupting a lot of the communities where Italians would come to New York and live in their communities. Spanish would do the same thing, and the Portuguese. Well, they would end up building these major highways, and then they would relocate all these different cultures into major complex. That's why you had the 80s, a lot of gang wars, because you've displaced people that know enough to say, I'm coming from another part of the world. I'm going to go to New York, but I know my relatives live here in New York. So this is what happens even with animals. Animals get displaced. And when they get displaced, then everything else gets displaced. Trees, insects, and humanity, humans overall, I still think we're the aliens. We're very disturbance to this plane.
Mhm.
You know, like it might look nice when you built a nice Coliseum and then people don't understand, but you know what they were doing inside the Coliseum. You know what I mean? It's like watching football players. Do we really know how much injuries those guys really go through? You know what I mean? Everybody wants to see it's fancy, it's beautiful. That's us wanting to be entertained. That's why athletes and actors get paid more than the people that grow our foods. You would think if it came down to being entertained and wanting somebody else to entertain us, or wanting somebody to grow our own food, who would you pay more to? See, this is how stupid we are, Jay. And I say that fairly openly. I could care less if you had the Pope and the Queen in one of your meetups. I'd tell the same thing. I said, you're the most idiots, because they talk about poverty. But meanwhile, I said, but people still value gold. Until you sell your gold, shut the fuck up, please. You know, this is where I agitate myself and I only spew out certain things where people say, well, Donald, but you're being mean. I said, you've never seen me be mean with me before. You know, if a person really wants to have a debate with oneself. If a person wants to revolt, have revulsion with oneself. Realize that we're our own worst enemies and our friend too. I've told my buddies many times, they said, I want to be your friend. I'm like, you better be prepared to be my enemy too. Because if you don't, I want none of that. Because at least my enemy will call me on my crap. You know what I mean? You know, if not, you know what it is? It's a bunch of men doing feel good meetups. Oh, what did you guys do today? Oh, well, I went for a walk. I learned a little bit about philosophy. It sounds like a bunch of, no, I don't want to insult the women because women do the same thing too. You know, we sound like a bunch of kids at a playground. I went snowboarding last week. Oh, that's nice, Johnny. Okay, your parents are pretty well off. That's nice. And then if Johnny, you know, next week he complains, well, my parents didn't take me. I said, Johnny, you're a spoiled little brat. Now fuck off. I say those harsh, and I apologize, Jay. I say that kind of harsh. Sorry, Jay.
That's interesting. The way you put it, that human nature is what biologically we have we have a tendency towards doing certain things, and just like a cat, its cat nature is to chase down birds and eat them, but
they don't know how.
So our human nature is there too, but is that human nature to eat others, or is that situation was because they were desperate and that's what they had to do, or it depends on the character, or could they have survived without eating each other? Those soccer player, that soccer team that you mentioned.
If push comes to shove, see, most of us never really get to that point. Even wars never get us to that point. A person that basically holds a gun to your head or holds you hostage still never gets you to that point. What happens is you have a lot of habits which forms behaviors. So a person says, I can't see myself eating a human being. I said, can you see yourself eating an animal? Well, yes. Okay. So if I put a piece of meat in front of you and I never told you I was a human being or an animal, would you eat it? And he said, well, no. I said, yes, you would. Why? Because have you ever eaten a piece of steak wrapped up in a plastic? Well, yes. Have you ever killed an animal? Well, no. I said, that's the problem you're having here. You're too busy thinking you're going to be killing a human being. You've never even killed an animal. Most people, if they actually had to kill an animal today, Jay, most people would be most would be vegetarians. And even that, most of us wouldn't even know how to grow our own fruits. So most of us would die, sadly, being malnutritioned, or they would learn to steal first. So behavior and nature are two different things. If a person can get past their behaviors, knowing that I'm used to having it on a plate and all that, they would eventually, if they really value staying alive. Most people say they want to be alive, but most people don't. I'll give you an example. This was a story that was a person had documented years ago. There was a lady that went to this other lady and asking about being helped. And the lady did everything in her power to help the person become healthy. And then one day she found out, you know, you've been taking all this medicine. Yes, I have. I said, I need some real honesty from you. Do you really want to live or die? And she said, with all honesty, I want to die. I said, stop taking the pill. Within 3 months, she died because her will did not want to live. So why waste time taking pills, going to people? That's a person that says, I'm very kind, but behind closed doors, they're very mean. That's a hypocrite. Or the person that says he says he's very mean, but behind closed doors, he's very kind. That's a hypocrite. It's the guy that says, I'm a thief. I talk like a thief and I act like a thief. He's not a hypocrite. He's being genuine. No different person says I'm a kind person, I act kind. That's why I'm an agitator. For me to be an agitator, I have to be a hypocrite. I do care about humanity, but I'm also an observer. Humanity shows that they're a disgusting race. Now, a person said, but not everybody's killing everybody. I said, no, disgusting has nothing to do with this killing everybody. It's about neglecting each other, not showing consideration to each other. You know, you're in a bus. Do they need to put a sign saying, listen, you're the first one on the bus, or you should be at the back? You know, the king of the world is the one that serves everybody. That's the server. But if you want everybody to serve you, then you're the weakest. And that's what most kings are. They're the weakest. And then we wonder why we're being led by weak kings. Because if he's a server, he's going to come up to you and say, Jay, Dominic, how can I be of service to you? You want me to make you food? That's a king. He's ruling his kingdom out of kindness. not out of contempt or out of laziness. Now, most people will say, well, Dominic, I'm independent. I'm like, you're full of shit. You have to get somebody to give you your gas, buy your cars, fuel, all the stuff that goes to your house. This is how we've forgotten our place as a race. Forget about whether or not people say there's blacks and whites or whatever. We're all one race. And last time I remember, me and Jay are not white. We're light skinned. And as long as we keep playing the black and white game, there's people above us. They're looking at us and laughing. Black lives matter. No, all lives matter. That includes the animals. Now, if a person has to be put down because he's in pain and he allows, he said, listen, Dominic, Jay, can you at least put me to sleep? Why? Because I'm in so much pain. Okay. He's telling us permission. Animals have a voice, but we don't give them that choice. Now they might turn around and say, well, I don't think they really have a conscience. Really? Have you ever seen a mother cow and all the other cows fighting when they know their baby calf's being taken away? Again, we're a very dumb species. But if people say, yeah, but we go ahead. Sorry, Jay.
So we're very dumb and we're very disgusting. And yet we, when we're in a situation like that soccer team or whatever, or whenever we're in a situation where we want to survive, we will resort to cannibalism, and that seems disgusting for us that are in good conditions, and we wouldn't think of doing that. But if it came down to that situation, we probably would. Or we would die.
No, the strong, the fittest mentally will survive. Now, I'll give you an example. Would you drink blood? See, the thing is, you wouldn't, but do you know the value of blood? People consume gold. See, this is the thing. Most people don't realize cannibalism. Most animals aren't chasing the meat. They're chasing the blood. You ever heard about stories when people get, heart transplants or another part transplant, and then all of a sudden now they have memories of another person that actually was the donor? Because they don't understand how memory works in the blood. The whole story of vampires, they've made it very Hollywood, but the thing is, there's value to drinking blood like water. So to put a word like cannibalism, then a person would say, why would I eat an animal? That's cannibalism. It's like somebody saying, I'm not a materialistic person. I said, you are, because you're in a material form. You eat material. You actually sleep on the material. Anybody that says otherwise, I'm thinking, who failed you? Your mother, your father, your community, your schooling system. People talk a lot of times, but they don't really listen to themselves. Because something inside will say, listen, Dominic, Jay, you're acting like an idiot today. Oh, well, thank you. Because you learn more when you know you're an idiot than you thinking, oh, I'm smart. Really? How can I be smart when I've never invented anything? Like, do you know anybody, Jay, that invented the internet? You know anybody that created, that invented steel, plastic? So we could be a species that's, it's like the movie, do you remember the Truman Story? Okay. Truman was the only one there seeking, the only one. There was programmers and there was people watching them. The people that were watching him didn't realize he was at least searching. And the programmer rewarded him by saying, listen, we'll let you go up on the stage and go to another place. All the rest of the people were still asleep. They think, oh, I can't believe, look at him. He didn't know. No, everybody that was watching it, and even the people who are watching the movie, are the ones that are the idiots. That was what the story is about. He was a seeker. So how are people going to understand Socrates if he was a seeker, unless somebody watered down the story?
That's interesting.
Well, that's the
I
thing.
never thought of the Truman Show that way. I'll have
Well, a
to
lot of
watch
people
it
don't,
again.
because it's entertainment. People don't see all the signs that are there. A lot of these society clubs put all their signs and paintings and movies. Why? Because the rest of us are like, say me and you were chickens in a chicken pen. Me, you, Lewis, all these other people in the world. All of a sudden, one day, I disappear. What would Lewis, what were you and, I don't know, Dom just disappeared. I don't know where he went to. That's what we do. We don't realize there's other places that we go. But we just think life and death. No, most people don't know what life and death is. They might understand what suffering is or isn't, resistance and attachments to pain and pleasure. That's it. What is life and death? Every time, life could literally be inside and death is outside, because your hair outside is dead. So what is life? You know, seek from within. Okay, am I doing like a phone where me and you are talking to each other, but where's the energy between my house and your house? Because I'm only seeing the two material things. So when you seek from within, there's a good chance we have, like I said, we have many receivers in us, and it's being picked up from somewhere else. We could literally be in a video game. Let's say hypothetically, it's like a matrix. We could be in a video game, and then they give you red or blue, you know, half full, half empty. No, we're more than this duality. You know, if I showed you a glass, half full, half empty, and you turn around and say to me, Dominic, can I talk about the table? Sure you can, Jay. What about the picture? Sure you can. Can I talk about the glass? Sure you can. What about the fact that, Dominic, I don't see all the words on those objects? Sure you can. That's a person that's awake. Everybody else is asleep. They're sleeping. And even that, at least there's a place for sleeping before you rest. Actually, sorry, after you rest. You know, I say this because I realize I hear a lot of people talking, and like even me, I'm talking, I'm yapping. Okay. But the thing is, if I had to share what I really kind of comprehend, how could I share that with another person with a language that's very restricting? Because I know that it always has to come with a meaning, because then we have to have definitions to every word that I have. That's why I make it very simple. I said, you don't see language. Just to get a person to start for the first time in their life thinking. For the first time, what do you mean, Dominic? I don't see the word to the object called a hand. I never knew that before. But meanwhile, I'm 70, I'm 80, I'm 90 years old. Wow. A 5-year-old might turn around and say, wow, Dom, that's fascinating, because they didn't have a lot of their behaviors altered already. As we get older, we become dumber, but we also have a chance to become a little bit of awake. You know, but I only say that because we work as a collective. If the collective was somewhat awake, then I wouldn't be talking about us being dumb. We would be explorers. We would be working as one. You know, hey, Jay, I just heard the other day that you created steel. Yeah, so did Lewis and me. We all do it. Oh, I heard you became a doctor. We're all doctors. You know, we're on our teachers, we're on our own physician. But what we end up doing is people will go to university for 8, 9, 10 years for one fucking degree. One. Not 360 degrees, they go for one. And then they think that's a profession. I feel like kick them in the ass and said, there's a second degree right there. You just learn pain. Yeah, but Dominic, look all the money I make. I said, did you make it or did you earn it? Because if you're making it, I want to understand, how do you print money? At least that's a craft. This is the stuff I tell people. I said, listen, you've made lots of money. Did you really make it or did you earn it? And what did you give in exchange for that money? Your energy. Because if me and Jay had all the land in the world, and we can't convince the people to voluntarily give their energy to work the land is useless now to us. But to nature, as usual, the buffaloes will say, great. The horses would say, great. You know, this is how we are very destructive as a race, because we really don't put a lot of thoughts and consideration. Forget about animals, because we're animals too, but we don't even put consideration to ourselves, to our future generation. You know, America's collapsed. People just don't realize it yet. The empire, it's one of the last empires. Maybe the next time it'll be a dynasty. You know, why? Because they put a lot of weight on the fact that people only work if they get paid. They're not going to work because they care. They work because they get paid. I'm going to be a police officer because I get paid. Now, a person say, but Dominic, how can I afford my internet? I said, that's your condition right there. If nobody got paid, let's say hypothetically, and it might take 5 or 6 generations, and we're all doing all this technology because we want information. And then people say, yeah, but then I could talk to somebody. I said, you can use many ways. You can talk to somebody verbally. You could talk to somebody internet, on the phone. It's nice to have technology with our technology, me and you. But it's when a person says one should outweigh the other. You know, the old people that would say, I remember my father's and his friends would say, in our days, life was easier and we were better with money. I said, you guys are idiots. Sorry, Dad, but you're an idiot right now. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you never had credit cards. You never had internet. You never had many choices. Human beings that aren't intelligent or critical thinkers, having too many choices makes them dumber. But to a person that's critical thinker and he's emotionally developed, choices, great. I have many choices. I want that. So this is why, like today, we live in an era, Jay, where we're all spoiled. And I'm talking about the developed countries. The underdeveloped countries, they're suffering in their own ways. You know, especially if you value here, everybody says, I'm worth $30 an hour. Well, then explain somebody else somewhere else that's only making $1 a day. And if I'm a capitalist, I'll love that before I love paying somebody $30 an hour here. See, this is where the Americans and Canadians think that they're better. No, we're idiots. We just don't know it yet. Our system has failed a long time ago. That's why America and Canada are always running a deficit. Yeah, because most of us, how many friends do you have that actually grow their own food? I'm talking from a hypocrite point of view because I don't. My wife does. She will actually ferment foods and she understands a lot about healing and all that. But I know I'm caught up in my comforts. So for somebody to say, well, Don, you've never changed. I said, who better to explain to you how we're acting like idiot, but an idiot. You know, what do I expect a holy man to come down and say, listen, guys, I'm really holy and none of you guys are really going to understand me? Or would you rather me be an idiot like you so at least you can understand idiocy? That's why people get uncomfortable. And that's why I use the word agitator, because most people don't want to hear that stuff. Because if they do, they think for some reason they got to do something about it. I said, this is not about doing anything. Awareness has nothing to doing. It's just to be aware. It's like, I understand that there's a lot of people in the world that are very corrupt. And I like to study that stuff, not because I think they should change, because I study enough to realize this has been going on for centuries. Who am I to interfere? I'm just wanting to study it. You know, it's like me and you, we're talking right now. There's nothing I'm going to say to you today that should change the world. It might change your perception of how you see it. But even that, what can me and you do to help poverty? Nothing. Maybe outside of don't become the poor. Don't become the rich. So you'll be the rest of us. Okay. And if everybody was in the middle, would we have poor and rich? No, we would make sure if anybody falls behind, we would help them. And if everybody goes too far ahead, we would help them and say, listen, we always have to be one. Sounds very idealistic, but unfortunately the other system's not working. So you have to try something else if you choose to. And a lot of that choosing comes within your own kingdom. This is where when I had listened to Lewis, he knows enough about himself. He wants in his kingdom to be pleasure. All the power to you. The only reason why I brought it up is because he was telling me about suffering. I said, because I'm seeing things that maybe, Lewis, you just figured you're too busy keeping your own kingdom, which is fine. And if I spent a lot of time taking care of my own kingdom, if I was a farmer, I wouldn't have time to philosophize. And if I did, it would be the moment thinking, I wonder how good God is to us today because I had an abundance of crops. And then God would say, because I want to see whether or not you're going to share your extra with other people. That's me hypothetical talking, because whether or not there is a God or not, that's a story. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people will get caught up in, well, but the Bible says this. I'm like, who wrote the Bible? And what value does it bring to you? Unless you take whatever comes out of that book and you apply it instead of using it as a weapon, because Buddhism, we can talk Carl Jung, you can talk about Plato talking about Socrates. There's many stories, but when a guy talks about one story, I already know he's acting like an idiot. Yeah, but I believe in Jesus. It says right in the Bible. I'm like, really? Is this the game you're playing with yourself? This is why I tell people, I said, do you see language? Well, not really. I said, so then how would you know what God is if you can't even see one of the things that if he supposedly created, you can't see? He's in the unknown. Maybe the known God could be a clever God. I don't know. It's all a possibility, right? Sorry, you were going to say something, Jay.
So in the Truman Show, I didn't. Well, I have to watch it again, but I'll look for what was it that he was seeking, and what I remember is that he's in this kind of big dome, and everything is wonderful, and he's the only one that believes everything is the way it is. So that could be a metaphor for.
He was questioning things. He was questioning his surroundings.
So and that could be a metaphor for the way we're in our situation, and and by seeking, so I don't know if we can get out of it, but we can at least understand it.
Mhm.
And maybe that's parallel to the story of the Buddha, that he was kept from seeing suffering around him by his father, because he was afraid he would become uh, a world teacher. He wanted him to become a world king and a monarch, and so he kept everything beautiful around him in the palace, and just outside in the city, he made it look clean and got rid of the old people and the sick people, kind of hid them. So it was like a Truman world, or a Truman show, but it was a Siddhartha. No, it was it was the Prince Siddhartha world for him. So he was shielded from pain and suffering, but he was still seeking. Why is this so? And when he
Whoever told
found,
you that story, Jay, whoever told you that story, that's so far off.
so
Okay,
what?
let
So
me tell
far
you.
off?
Okay, when he was born, his mother died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
the wise men came and had told the king, because remember, you got to remember, most kings are conditioned where they're already isolated from everybody else. So he had told him, he says, he will be what you say you want him to be, but he also will be something else. Because his
Mm.
mother had died, see, people don't understand the story of suffering. What he set off to, go ahead.
Okay,
I can share it when you're ready.
go
Just tell me.
ahead.
What he started off initially was different than the way he finished off after all the different reincarnation. So because his mother had died, he didn't understand death. But at the
Mm.
same time, he was being conditioned all the behaviors of pleasure. He never
Mm-hmm.
set off initially to leave the kingdom because of that. And then when he finally came out, because he can king, and then he started seeing aging, he started seeing death. It struck up because the fact that he didn't understand why his mother was never in his life. Then he started going to all these other kinds of teachings and never
Mm-hmm.
satisfied him. And in the end, after his 13th reincarnation, what he discovered was suffering wasn't just about resistance to pain. It was his attachments to pleasure that kept bringing him back over and over again. His example was the teachings, not him. He was an idiot. He just
Mm.
didn't know it. And I say idiot because I'm the idiot. It's our attachments to things, not the resistance, that we struggle the most. Most people come back over and over again, not because I got shot and I'm vengeful. No, it's their attachments of getting even, or all the nice
Mm-hmm.
comforts I had. That's what he did. That's what he discovered in the end. But what set him
Mm-hmm.
off initially? But most people will tell you a story. I said, you're already going down the wrong path. Because when people first of all tell me the Buddha, I'm like, who cares about his name? What was the teachings? You got to go
Mm-hmm.
inside. It reveals who you already are. You have a blank piece of paper, it's already there. So when I tell people, I said, listen, when you look at something, you got to look at first initially from within. Look outside, then go back within after. So people have to understand, you're not going to understand life and death, but you're going to understand, if anything, understand. That's an individual journey. I can't understand you, Jack. I can only understand me. I'm sharing with you something that I'm aware of for me. Now, if you turn around and say, Dominic, I don't believe in that. I said, I don't care if you believe it or not. It's for you if you want to take it into your own little room and question it for yourself. For me, I don't care if people agree or disagree with me, because I understand you can't see through my eyes. So these
Mm-hmm.
people that want to debate are idiots. They just don't know it yet. I say idiots, I should say the word acting like an idiot, because when we're acting like anything, we're not condemning anybody. We're in the illusion. That's why we have many words with the word act. So they're acting like somewhat of a moron, a low IQ. I don't want to find out they're an imbecile too, where they're thinking, well, but Dominic, I read the book. I'm like, do you understand what reading books does to the hemisphere? Oracle teachings or thoughts are by far more superior than reading a book. But I get it. We want our comforts. Well, if there's so many doctors in the world, has that helped people being healthier? No. So then if there's so many books in the world, has that helped people become aware? No, it hasn't. If anything else, it puts a block between that. So, but I get the story. You know, regardless if it's a king, it could be a homeless person. He's attached to certain things. Most people do not, they're resisting pain, but they love their pleasures. Oh my goodness, Dominic, I really love this ice cream. Oh, I really like my alcohol. Well, then why does your wife want you to quit it? Because I have a lot of side effects. Yeah, but have you ever been honest with her? What do you mean? Tell her that you're attached to your likes. Well, yeah, I said, tell her to stop buying shoes. Well, she won't do that. And then why does she expect you to do something? When you're ready to change, that's your responsibility. You know, when you're a child, that's different. So as I'm hearing you tell the story, you're telling yourself a fairy tale story, which is fine. You can tell a fairy tale story, but how does that apply to you? Would you give up everything you have? Would you leave your house and then start living out in the woods to talk to, we'll call it wise men or whatever? Would you? That only you know that. And if you won't, then what value does the story of Buddha bring to you? It's a story. It's bragging rights for anybody. It's like Socrates or Jungians. Well, Dominic, the shadow self. Okay, so do you really understand how the shadow comes from the light? And have you ever really discovered, would you be crueler than Hitler? Well, no. I said, then why are you talking about the shadow self then? Well, it sounds good. And I went to university. I'm like, bring me your professor and I'll show you an idiot. But the idiot's me first. I'm just going to show the mirror of him. Now he might turn around and say, but I made all this money. I'm like, okay, like a seal at a circus. Are you done? This is how we question ourselves. This is the conversation that a person should have to themselves. But unfortunately, part of people don't understand the knower and the self. Which one is the knower and which one's the self? The self is the program that we're using as a language. So when you're awake, that's your self. The knower is the one that functions that body. How do I know that? Because I'm the observer of both. Who am I? Who are you? Are you Jay, the human being that's lived for 50, 60 years? Are you Jay, the one that moves the arm? Are you Jay, the one that actually functions the body? But do you function the body? Or is your body trying to tell you, say, listen, Jay, the reason why we have COVID is because you've been treating me like shit. And now you're going to behave well for the next couple of weeks, like a man that his wife wants to leave him and say, honey, I'll change. No, you won't. And if you do, you're going to do it for a couple of days. So who are you lying to? You're not lying to me. You're lying to yourself. Then we look surprised when people say they have cancer. Oh my God, I got cancer. Cancer cells are there to help you, to remind you you've done something wrong with your body. And it's not just about smoking and drinking. It's about the environment that we put ourselves in. You know, this is why, and then people say, well, I'll do chemotherapy. I said, oh, so we're going to put poison in our body too now? Your body will get even more mad. You know, we don't realize how important this vessel. My wife talks to her body. She can literally go to the grocery store and ask what should I eat? And I look at her and she'll either turn right or left. She uses her body as a pendulum because she understands to communicate with her vessel. Most people think everything's here. No, thoughts do not come here. Thoughts is everywhere. But everybody says, oh, it's here, Dom. The king and the queen is here. Oh, my heart. No, blood goes to the heart. Memory goes to the heart. And if you're a deceitful person, it'll go through the blood. It'll go to the heart. That's where passion is. Actually, it's not passion. Is it passion? I could correct myself. No, I don't. My passion doesn't come from there. You know. And then people say the gut area because intuition's there, desire's there. Men go quickly from underneath their balls to their heads, and then go back down again. Women, they go always intuitive, which is fine. But then they also have underdeveloped emotions. So they're thinking, well, Dominic, I don't like the way you treat me. I said, then why don't you remove yourself? Because you don't know my behavior. Maybe that's how I always am, you know? Because they use their underdeveloped emotion as a weapon. Oh, I was with this psychopath. Why didn't you leave him? Well, I was scared. Scared of what? Seriously, what are you scared of? You've never seen death and you've probably never seen life. So what are you scared of? I'll tell this to anybody. What are you scared of? Well, I'm scared I'm not going to have enough money. Okay. Can anybody ever have enough money? I don't know. Is it money that you're scared of not having enough or what you can buy with money? And for some people, it's not even about their necessities. I won't have enough jewelry, enough clothes. So those are your wants. This is, Jay, where I see most people as children. Because they think for some reason, well, Dominic, but I'm an adult. I said, if I ever was around an adult person, knowing that I'm still a child, how would I know? Most children at a certain age are acting accordingly. They haven't developed certain emotions. That's justified for them. But when we're 80 or 60 or 50 years old and we're still acting like children, meaning that we never developed our emotions. Now, a person said, but I did. I said, well, then explain wars. What do you mean? Do people go to war because they're developed emotionally or because they're underdeveloped emotionally? I'm fighting for my country. Why? We're one race. Now, there could be other species that interfere with us, but we still have to take accountability for our own actions, our own thoughts. Now, they might not necessarily be my thoughts, because really, as I'm talking to you, I'm just taking language that already I inherited, I learned. Now, I can say I own it to a certain point because I'm using it, so I have to be accountable, but I don't own the language itself.
So when you say that someone is underdeveloped emotionally, that means that they don't understand why they act the way they do because they don't know where it came from or something like that.
I'll give you an example. Me and you put on some wheels on our cars, okay? And we're in such a rush that we only put 1 or 2 bolts on instead of the 5. That's underdeveloped. So down the road, as we go down the road, there's a good chance eventually that turn up that tire will come off. So we haven't fully engaged that tire. So most people are underdeveloped, meaning that I should be able to say any word to anybody else, and instead of them saying, "Oh, Dominic, I'm offended," I would say, "Dominic, why did you say that? I wanted to see if I got your attention, and I wanted to see whether or not you're developed." We shouldn't be offended by language, because if we are, then how do we get offended when somebody says, "I was offended by language, but I'm offended differently if I get raped or I got beat up"? No. There's a physical offense, there's a mental offense, and an emotional offense. And if you're fully developed emotionally and the other person isn't developed emotionally, and then they use their underdeveloped emotion as a weapon, that's an offense. Poor Maureen, oh, poor me, I can't believe it. I didn't win the lottery ticket. I said, are you practicing for acting class or something? Why? Because I don't need to hear this. And really, honestly, with all sincerity, you probably don't need to hear it, but somewhere along the line, it's like a little child that's banging, they want their food. They have a reason to be that way because they haven't developed yet. But to see an adult by saying, well, you know something, I never get all the breaks. I'm like, really? Are we going to play that poor me game? There's people out there that lose a limb and they show that they can still endure. You know, the person that brags about how much money they have is underdeveloped. The person that brags about how many women he has is underdeveloped. There's certain things should be done and kept in secret, in private, not secret, private. You know, people that talk about their sexual orientation. I don't care what you want to do, who you want to sleep with, but that should be a private matter, not a public matter. You know, that's people wanting their way. Well, Dominic, I've been gay all my life. I said, I don't need to know that. Me and Jay like women, and we like to do certain things with women. That doesn't mean I should talk about that publicly. You know, this is where the media and the people that work for the media are idiots, and the people that watch it and say, I don't want to watch anymore. No, watch it with critical thinking and a developed emotion, because with critical thinking and vice versa, you'll help each other. Now, some people say, but I don't have emotional, like high IQ, EQ. Well, then there's your challenge. We all want to learn something, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jay, but I always feel filled when I'm actually learning something and feeling that I'm achieving something for myself. I want to make myself the best I can be for me.
So you're saying that in the story of the Buddha, the realization that he got is that it was his desires or attachments that brought him back constantly, and when he realized that, then he wouldn't be coming back. Instead of what initially was trying to end suffering or trying to avoid suffering. It's not trying to avoid suffering. Is that what you're saying? But
he was creating it over and over again. The attachment part wasn't his pleasure. His attachment was he was trying to seek, like, how do I put it? How to break the karma, the reincarnation process. That's why he laughed after his 13th reincarnation, because he realized that's what kept on making him come back. He was attached to the ideal of trying to break it. It's like me. I'm trying to figure out the universe. I'm forming an attachment. Compassion is an attachment. I suffer because of my compassion.
He was
That's
coming back because of his attachment to not coming back. That's what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. That's exactly what he was
That's
attached to.
interesting.
You know,
Hmm.
everybody else was trying to figure out other things. You know, how to be at peace while living in this world. You know, hence the word silence from peace. But the thing is, you can even become attached to that. Oh, I want to stay in this meditative state. Don't interfere, Dominic. I'm in so much peace. I don't want to be bothered by anybody. That's its own attachments.
So one could become attached to wanting to become a Buddha.
Sure you can. Same with Christ. It's all attachment. It's a version of attachment. But the word meant, you have to understand the word meant. It's a Latin word for mind. So when you have the word entertainment, amusement, settlement, you know where you're talking from the mind, the lower mind. The knower, the higher mind, is giggling because it says, I'm too busy functioning. This is why the Buddha said, I have to meditate, I have to fast and meditate. When you fast, you stop making the knower, the one that processes all the food, and now it can assist you when you meditate and listen. You'll be listening to the teacher. The teacher student's always within oneself. That's the lower ego, the self, and the higher self. But then there's the observer, the custodian, the witness. That's beyond both of them. You know, because when you're seeking from within, your receiver, where you getting the information from? Somewhere else. So you need a messenger in between. This is why people call things jinn, angels. Why? Because people think, well, jinns are bad. That's the ego talking. The jinn could purposely be there to teach you a lesson. You want to be a selfish person? I'm going to make sure I make you the best selfish person you can be. I want to be an honest person. I want to be the best you can be. Forget about the Jesus, or not Jesus. Jesus was just a story. That was about the planetorial. People that talk about Christ, treat others the way you treat yourself. No, treat others better than the way you treat yourself. Treat others worse than they treat yourself. Why? Because you want the society to elevate itself, both positive and negative. If I lived in a world, Jay, where everybody was kind and considerate, I would be the agitator still. Because I would say, how would you know for sure that you truly are kind if you've never been tested before?
Mm-hmm.
You need that person that's always going to challenge you, preferably within you. Now, sometimes people forget, oh, Dom, I've elevated, I need something. Okay, well, we'll send you somebody. Oh, Dom, I don't like the way he looks. Oh, so you're still being agitated. What do you mean? You have your preference. Got to make sure it comes in a guy that wears a black robe or a purple robe. Oh, look at those monks. Look at Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is an idiot. He doesn't know it yet. Oh, look at him. He's doing all of this. The fact that we're in a human form, that means we're always the student. Then the question would be, why are we in a physical form then if we're not the student? Well, Dominic, I think I'm enlightened. I said, do you know how to make steel, buddy? Please. And let's say he does. How would he explain that to the rest of us? It's like me and you. If we saw an alien, how would me and you explain it to Louis on Saturday? Louise, how would we explain it to him? We couldn't. It would be challenging. Oh my goodness, Dominic, tell Louis. Hey, sorry, Jay, you can't explain it to him. Why would I be able to explain it to him? I wouldn't. We all live in a bubble within our own worlds. So until people become aware for themselves of that simple step, anything else over that, that's our imagination going a little, and I like using my imagination. I won't deny that. Imagination, I am GN, there's a reason for all those letters. Same with the word laws, land, air, water, and space. But we just use it sloppily. Oh, it's nature's law. Okay, so nature's untamed. Law, land, air, water, and space. They're all untamed. It's humans that think we should control them. Why? I've never controlled the land. I've never controlled the water. I've never controlled the air. And I surely don't even know where space is unless it's going to be in between, but that could be classified as air. You know? But of course, a lot of us think, but I read the Buddha. I read, Confucius. These guys are all wise. Yeah, they were, but it doesn't mean we are wise. Their teachings. That's all I can say, Jay. Their teachings, even with me when I'm talking, I'm not really sharing teachings. I'm just sharing with you out loud. And hopefully, as I'm talking to you, I'm listening to myself as I'm talking to you. Because whatever I say to you, I'm the one that has to take that information. For you, you're going to do whatever you think or be is best for you.
What is best for me? What should I get from teachings? Or how can I learn from the wise and become wise?
Do you become wise or do you reveal wisdom? Two different things. You already are wise. You just maybe forgot. You don't become kind. You reveal
Oh,
kindness. You don't
oh,
become aware. You reveal awareness. Love is something you share. Is actually thought about this the other day. You fall into love. You become within love. So love is already here. It's an energy. So you fall into love. So when you come into the womb, you're falling into love. You can call it love, awareness, hate. Those are all things. When you redirect it towards somebody, it's not actually that anymore. Love is this love. If you are a loving God, would you separate people that are selfish or selfless? No, it's love. We're going to do what we're going to do. It's the ego when you realize that, well, I don't like the way he treats me. I'm like, okay, so that's not love then. So don't say it's love. Oh, I love my child. No, that's obligation and duty. Because if you love, you just show kindness to another human being or whatever. It's the person that's observing that. Say me and you were giving each other a hug and your mom saw that. She would feel love. She's the observer of love. Me and you are just giving each other a hug, maybe out of kindness, out of friendliness. But for us to say it's love, love is an observation from a third person. Same with hate. If I saw another human being harming another human, I'm seeing hate. Now, I could inquire, and then the person says, well, Dominic, I did that because he did something wrong to me. I said, so this is personal then? Well, yes, well, then that's not hate that I saw then. Hate is something you do, you just do it. I don't care who that person is. People that go around killing another human being because he belongs to another nation, that's hate. But if he says, I'm killing him because I know him and he's done something wrong to me, well, that's not hate. That's revenge. This is how we play around with words, but we forget there's energy with each word. And that's how the blood and all the other things in our body functions. If I told my body I want to lose weight, my body would say, okay, so Dominic, you're confusing me. What do you mean? When you lose your car keys, do you want to find them? Well, yeah. So then why do you want me to lose weight? Because then I got to find the weight. This is why people, they don't understand. You're using language that your computer doesn't, and if it does understand, it will continue to lose weight. And he said, but I want it to stop now. I said, that's not the commandment you gave it. They've done studies on this, Jay. They've even done studies when people want to practice doing basketball shots. You can either do it or go home and think about it for the first week or so, and then your body will align correctly and you'll do way better than a person that's just been physically practicing it.
So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, I should say, I want to burn calories and stop eating.
Well, calories is a word that we created, like most of them. Do you like to count things? You count down Dracula? If you don't, then that's for me, when it has worked, and unfortunately I've used fasting as a way of losing weight or shedding weight. Shedding weight plays a role. To get your body to a harmony that, it's best to maintain. It's easy to shed a lot of weight. You could say, I want to lose 30 pounds or shed 30 pounds. Next thing you know, you get into a car accident. And then all of a sudden now you're in the hospital and you haven't eaten healthy food for the last 20 days and you lost 30 pounds. And you say, well, that's not what I asked. I said, the universe always responds. You just don't know. You got to be careful how you ask the questions, so it comes down to, I know when I put on too much weight, but the thing is, it's not about the weight. It's why am I eating? And I know for me, it's usually emotions. So a person that drinks alcohol might eventually quit drinking alcohol, but he's still stuck. He might go to something else because he doesn't address the emotion. With alcohol, it's anger. Smoking is grieving. For me, I take in a lot of information and I am realizing that when I go for long fast, I'm not developed emotionally. I can talk about it, but I'm not developed emotionally. Because if I was, then I should be able to listen to anything, even in my thoughts, and not talk the way I do. Like when I say the word idiot, that's my emotions. I'm not developed. Because if I was developed, I wouldn't be saying those crusty words. So I know me. I say a lot of things that's very not appropriate, especially if you're trying to have a friendship with somebody, so I realize that about myself, and hopefully in time, I'll be a better person for it. But at the same time, I might lose a lot of respect from people. It's like a person that's an alcoholic. I've never been an alcoholic, but other people that are alcoholics, and then they change a new leaf, but they've lost the trust of a lot of people that they've harmed.
So how about instead of lose weight or shed weight, I should say, I want to change my metabolic set point.
Woohoo! Love that word. If that works for you, Jay, put it this way. If you say the word lose, okay, a person that wants to gain a lot of money, if you ever notice a person that's really rich or wants to gain a lot of money, but he wants to do it quick, he looks pretty big because he doesn't understand. When you say you want to gain a lot of money, your body will do the same thing. It'll gain a lot of weight. It works the same way. So if you know that losing your keys, that you're always going to, and it bothers you and you're going to try to find your keys, then if you say the same thing with losing weight, what do you think your body is going to say? Well, we got to do the same thing. So you got to find something that that you practice when you use that word. If you say that you shed weight, but you also do that with, I'm going to shed, my financing or whatever, it has to be, because remember, this is not just about the body. This is about the mental and emotional elements of us. Your mind has to adhere to the rest of your body. So when a person says he's open-minded, he has to also have to align it with being open-hearted, open intuitive. If he wants to be narrow-minded, he has to be narrow. You have narrow-hearted, narrow intuitive, narrow emotion. You have to have all of them aligned. It's like, when you do mathematical formulas, you can double check it with different formulas to see if it comes up to the same answer. Well, the body works the same way. But unfortunately, we were never taught that. And that's why you go inwards and your teacher will say, okay, whatever you were taught before, I'll have to help you strip that away. And then now we can start teaching you from scratch. But the first thing I'm going to teach you is to question everything, even question me, whoever I am. You know what I mean? The schooling system doesn't teach you that, to question the teacher. They teach you, here's the question, here's the answer. They give you both sides. So where's the, like if I tell people 1 + 1 = 2, and then I say 2 + 2 = 4, and then I say 4 and 4, they'll say 8. I said, did I say plus? They never stop and think about the follow each question as different. They see patterns, so then they assume the next one. It's like seeing that picture within the painting. Once you see it, you can't get rid of it. That's how most of us think. So there's a lot of pattern recognition in there. So for you or me, it's not about losing weight, because I know you can say a command. It's about, how do I get myself in that position? Am I eating late at night? You know what I mean? Am I eating too much carbs? Am I bored? That's boredom is usually a form of sadness. Am I sad? Am I not being fulfilled? Because if you're not, then you're going to try to eat food to be full. So you're using something as a replacement. This is just me talking out loud. Doesn't mean I practice this. I understand it when it comes to in its theory, where, okay, so if I'm going to have a physical diet, I also have to have an emotional diet. I have to have a mental diet. This is what I'm trying to say. If a person's sloppy with their wordage, they're also going to be sloppy in their food eating. Now, you could probably do it with a lot of will and lose or shed whatever 10 or 15 pounds, but in the end, you're going to get it all back again, because we haven't implemented the maintenance part of it. Somebody that says to me, Dominic, I've reduced my smoking by 1 extra cigarette a day. As long as you can maintain it, well done. I always encourage people. I'm not here to tell them it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, listen, well done. If that brings you value, I can see that they're happy about it. So I'm only giving them what they want to hear. Well done. If they're going to say to me, Dominic, but I don't think I'm successful, then I keep my mouth shut, because I realize I'm not going to join their pity party. Because they at least quit 1 cigarette if they think that's important to them. Remember, I always say to myself, I'm not the one that told them to smoke. So who am I to tell them to quit smoking?
So I'm already wise. I have to reveal my wisdom.
Yes, you do. We're all wise. That's what I'm saying. We're being stupid in the sense that we're being clever or we're being naive. That's probably not even the right word by saying stupid. I'm a parent now.
There's hope. So there's hope in humanity because we're all inherently wise and and true and compassionate, but we're just covered with mud. We have to reveal our Buddha nature.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. You can go that far because we also can reveal that we're very crusty. We're very egotistical. So I'm not going to lean towards revealing just one aspect. We have many doors. So humanity as a whole has always struggled, part and partial, because we've never learned how to be collective within our own kingdom. So how are we going to be outside? So it's not just about having one door open and all of a sudden now humanity. No, that's hope is something that the church can have. Fuck the church and all their boats. Same with all the states. I have no interest whatsoever. Now, I am religious. When I practice something over and over again, that's religious. I lean more towards the unknown, which is spiritual for me. But actually go to religion, nah, that's right up there with voting. I have no interest in either one of those. Anybody that says they're going to be saved in a religion, I said, whether they know it or not, that's all about manipulation. So anybody that tells me he's a Christian, I'm like, okay.
So our human nature is not just wise, but it's also egotistical, or is the egotisticalness is just something that we need to have in order to get settled or to survive?
Something I really don't think. You had said human nature. My wordage of human nature is either classified as wild or untamed. Is
or
wisdom
human essence?
That's a good word. It could be our essence. I can't say it's a behavior. You can maintain it with behaviors, but it could be essence, because there's always the essence to things. So maybe that is our essence. Maybe we are, maybe the reptilian part of us or the animal part is untamed, and then the other part of our brain, the being part, could be literally the part that can be wise, cruel, revengeful. That's all the experience, I guess. Now, whether or not we want to put it under one envelope, again, it doesn't resonate with me when I hear the word somebody, saying that wisdom is coming from human nature. Nature to me is human, maybe. I can't even say that. That's the animal part of us, but which is untamed. So it is a human nature. Yeah, we are to a certain point. Like I know in certain areas, putting me and you in the same situation in the forest or in some sort of desert island, some people wouldn't know better. They would probably start drinking the water, the salt, and not realizing it's harmful for them. But they're not realizing that eventually if they can get some sort of liquid in them and then they would start peeing, your liquids would be purified, that you could actually start drinking. That's why some people, when they're shipwrecked on a boat, eventually they say, I survived 3 weeks. Why? Because after a certain period of time, your pee, you can start drinking. Tastes like coconut water. But most people have a difficult time by saying, ooh. I said, how can you say, ooh, you've never done it before? It's like when people say to me, this tastes like shit. I'll stop dinner and I'll say, listen, guys, I need to ask a question. What type of shit are you talking about here? I don't get offended by the word. I'm trying to understand, because maybe some people have tasted shit. I just want to know. It's like when somebody says to me, Dominic, I tasted squirrel. Okay, how did it taste like? My dad told me a long time ago, cat tastes like rabbit. Oh, okay. That's me being inquisitive. I'm not here to, when somebody says, ooh, that's a judgment. And that's an arrogant judgment. Unless a person can truly say that, Dominic, I've tasted pee, then I can say, but when did you taste it? When it was still in the detox phase? Really, there's a lot to be said about different liquids that we have. It's like us. Most of us can absorb more magnesium in a shower, in a tub, than we can orally. Same with vitamins. We could take way more through the body than we can through the mouth, because we forget that we're living in an organism. These are all, our body's a live being. Everything in our body's live, like inside. This is why people like Scientology, they talk about at a certain level that there's all these beings within you, hence the story of Jesus talking about, there's a legion of thousands of us, because they're all inside of you. These are parasites. They would call them demons back then, but they're parasites, and you need to have a balance. Same with a virus. You need to have a balance in your kingdom. You can't have one ruling over the other. This is why I say a lot of people don't understand what a virus is. And
like
they don't.
Bacteria in the gut.
Yeah.
You need to have a good floral.
Yeah, it has to be balanced. So you understand that, Jay. You have to have a balance. Bad and good. In this case, I'll change the word negative and positive. You know, you need them both. Now, you don't want to have too much of one or the other. You know, it's like alkaline opposed to acidity. Our stomach is more acidity, but drinking too much alkaline water could actually distort that. You know, again, I understand this. It doesn't mean I practice it. You know, there's two different things going on. You know, it's like a priest saying, I could talk to you about loving each other, but I'm not in a marriage. But they understand relationship, because you can have a relationship, me and you having a relationship. You know, it's relating. Now, most people will romanticize. That has nothing to do with love. They can romanticize about, I wonder how my new colleagues are going to be at work. That's romanticizing. And then there's factual. Factual is usually the day after. I can prove it. This is why a lot of people say, well, I'm not into theories, but I'm into fact. I said, so you're into yesterday's news. Oh, okay. I could tell you the weather, how it was yesterday, factually. So what today is, when somebody says the weather's going to be 40% chance, what they're doing is they're taking information of past, and they say more times than not, under those environments, 40% of the time we're right that it's going to rain. That's not a good average. It's like baseball. 3 out of 10 times, that's a good average. No, it isn't. That's a shitty average. But among players, they classify that's a good average.
And I wonder, in Truman Show, you said he was searching. When did he start searching? When the globe was falling apart, or and when do we start searching? What causes us to search? Is it we become mature, or we get tired of our stupidity? We've realized that we're making mistakes all the time, and we want to change.
I don't think it's mistakes. I think you can even start searching once you obtain billions of dollars. I'll give you an example. I shared something with you last Saturday, and it made you stop and think about it. It wasn't something you were probably ever going to come across yourself, maybe or maybe not, when I told you about a piece of paper and do you see the language? Some people get to that awareness where they start questioning the simple things. Like depression is a form of awakening. Something inside of you is trying to stop you so you can start pondering. So I'll give you another one here. Jay, me and you today are going on the beach, okay? And there's no clouds, but the sun's out and it's hot. Okay. So now by lunchtime, me and you both jump in a plane and we're going to do parachuting. Are you with me so far? Okay. As we're outside on the wing, why is it cold outside? We're closer to the sun. Why is it colder outside?
Because we're getting
the wind.
Air is going across the plane and taking away the heat, maybe.
Okay. So now let's say you jump out of the plane, and as you're jumping out of the plane, you're going at a certain pace. You open up your parachute, and all of a sudden now you're going at a very slower pace. Why is it still colder as you go higher up towards the sun?
Why?
Okay, so now
there's less oxygen, or less more separation between particles. Maybe.
Okay. So then
when we hold heat.
Okay, so now when we land on the ground, why is it now? Because we were closer to the sun. Now we're further from. Why is it hotter? Because now we're closer to the ground than we are to the sun. So now I'll share you. What's that?
The atmosphere holds heat.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain to you about.
Maybe there's some heat from the earth coming out too.
Could be. It could be. You're right. You could be. But then if we start digging into the sand, why is it colder as we go further down? I'll explain why now. Gravity is a theory.
Okay. What?
Okay. Gravity is a theory. Remember, it's just a word. Okay. We have another word called magnetic. If you have ever been around a very strong magnet, the magnet that's around you, and you put two magnets on either side of you, you being in the middle, and I can only explain it because I've experienced 347 electricity. It's not something you want to experience because it's one of those things that pulls you. It's not a shock, it pulls you. So what happens is once those two magnets and you're in the middle, you feel a thing called heat. So as above, there's this big magnet. As below, there's a big magnet. You're its element in between. Now, when there's less clouds, the magnet becomes stronger. The clouds serve a purpose. It's not what we all think. It's just about water. Yes, it does take up water, and it picks up salt water, and then it becomes more purified water. It's a system that's beyond us as a race to understand fully. You know, this is something else where I think, okay, there has to be some other kind of creator out there. Call it whatever we want, but it is a creation. So, or formulation, call it whatever we want. So to know that, then you realize, that's strange. Or when they say that we're on a flat or round Earth. If it is what they say, a round Earth, NASA, never a straight answer. NASA means in Hebrew, it means to deceive in its short form. So now we're looking at it. I'm like, okay, so me and Jay, we're mathematicians. We understand every 1.66 kilometers or 1 point whatever miles that there's a curvature. Then why don't they have corrections when you're doing sharpshooting and flying a plane? Because they understand that the plane itself is similarly flat. Okay, now, how does that serve? Because they don't want to show that there's other planes. They want to make sure that everybody has a globe and they say it's round. I'm like, okay, so I see two round spheres up there, but I don't see what I see here up there. I don't see trees up there. I don't see water up there. And I don't see like man-made stuff like bridges, and I don't see houses. So how can I make a calculation deduction and say, based on the 20 things I see here and I don't see nothing up there, then that we must be that up there. That's a game that's been played upon us. Now, I can't say it's completely flat, because if me and you lived in villages where in past you would stay in a community where you would live and die, the most you would ever walk away from that village is within 1 day. So if you lived in an area where it was all Rocky Mountain, you would think it's all Rocky Mountain. If you lived where it's near mostly all water, you would say it's water. So you couldn't explain the rest of all the other plains. This is the world that we live in. But unfortunately, most people want to be told how to think. And I'm not saying what I just said is right. I'm just challenging it. You know, like if the planet, so they say, travels 160, if it travels 1,600 kilometers an hour, work with me on this. Okay, well, let's make it miles, because you guys work with miles in America. Let's say it travels 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, follow me on the math on this, because you're a pretty wise guy. I'm pretty sure you'll figure this out. If me and you traveling from New York to go to England, and it's 900 kilometers an hour to fly at its top speed. From going from New York to London, and say, well, we'll use a safe number of say 1,800 miles. So within 2 hours, if I'm going 900 miles an hour to go to, it would take me 2 hours. That's what it means. But now let's say the Earth is traveling at the same time in the same direction I'm going, 1,600 miles an hour. So that you would have to add them together. So 16 plus 9 is 25. If it's only 1,800 miles to get to London, that means in 1 hour I've gone 2,500 miles. I would have overshot my destination. Work with me on that. Now let's do the opposite. I'm going 900 this way, and I'm going 1,600 this way. That means in 1 hour, what has happened? I've traveled way further. Actually, the first example was incorrect on my part. If I'm going 900 this way and it's going 1,600, that means the plane's always going to be 700 miles behind the planet. The planet doesn't move. But this is where they play games where a flat Earth and round Earth, there's a possibility it could be both and many other shapes to it. But this is where we think somebody says they go up in a spaceship, astronaut, most of them are high Masons, and they say, we landed there. The only thing I know they get from it is they get lots of money from it. Because even if they didn't, let's say they did go, what purpose would it serve for a person living in Africa or a person living in a jungle in Malaysia? Nothing. This is the game. Go ahead.
Well, what happens when we're in a car and we're traveling at a certain speed, but we're not moving, but the car's moving.
That's right.
So,
well, in the theory
there,
in that theory of, go ahead.
When the car accelerates, then we feel a gravitational pull. Well, it's a push against the seat. So that's kind of an artificial gravity there.
Well, we're using a word. you know, the concept of what they think it is, they called it gravity, but it's a theory still. There's not like most things. That's why you have physician theorists. They're theorizing about everything. And if enough papers are written on it, then they make a quick leap and say, in the past we theorized it, now we're just going to change it. It's factual. No, it's still theory. Like if the earth is moving 16, we'll say 1,000 miles an hour, that means I should be able to throw up a ball for a good hike, and then within a couple of minutes when it lands, it should land over there, because the earth is always moving. It isn't. That's why we have certain planes don't go certain places. That's why when you ever look at what you call it, United Nation flag, I mean the United Nation flag, that's exactly how it is.
Well,
But
why is it that when I'm in the car and I'm driving at a certain speed
mhm,
or as a passenger and I throw a ball in the air inside the car and it lands with me? Isn't
mhm.
that the same thing? Except if I do that outside the window of the car, then in that case, when I throw it up in the air, what happens?
Mhm.
What what
Well,
happens?
your car's
It
moving. Your car's
it
moving.
should it should rise up and come back down if there's no air outside. But since there's air, then the air molecules will push the ball away like wind and
Yeah.
it'll throw it
Okay.
back.
Hmm. Hmm. Only thing I'm using is I'm not making these numbers up. This is the numbers that have been given to us. So it's like anything else. If I give you a number and it's me, you, then it's my responsibility because they're my numbers. You're just going to double check it for yourself. Like I said, if the earth, whatever they're talking about, is moving based on their numbers, and we introduce something like a plane, then you have to say, okay, so how does it work both ways? It doesn't. My dad even said to me, well, Don, why does it take an hour to get back from Europe than it is to go there? I said, Dad, when you take any major highway to go to major cottage country, more times than not on the way back, most people they go up north for an hour first to avoid the major traffic they came on the runway. And it's the same with the planes. They don't always take the same airlines. So one plane has to go, they have to deviate a certain direction first and then take that direction. That's why there's a difference. But outside of that, if the earth is moving at all, going from two different destinations, you should end up never back at the same time.
I
I'm
could
just saying.
I could show it to you right here. I have the earth right here.
The
So
globe.
the reason why when you're flying from Toronto to England,
Yep.
uh, that you would want the shortest route is a straight line, then it would be like this,
What's the
and
speed? What's the speed of that
and
plane? Hold on, hear me out. I know you. What's the speed of the plane?
and then and
What's
then
this?
when you draw it on a map, it will look curved, even though it was a straight line physically.
Jay, Jay,
Well,
hear
it's
me
got an
out.
arc.
Hear me out.
It's got an arc because of the surface of the Earth. If you slice it straight 90 degrees, it'll be a straight line. But then when you show it on a map, it'll be curved.
Okay, so Jay,
That's why they
put
kind of
it.
fly northwards and then come down. That's
Yes,
why they
but
fly at an arc.
put aside the ideal it's round or flat. How fast is that plane going? Going from Toronto to England? 900 kilometers? Usually that's the top speed. Are you with me on that? Make any other number you want. Say 700. Can you follow me on that?
Whatever speed you give me, I'll accept.
Okay, so I say 700, okay? If it's going from east to west 700 and it's 1400 kilometers to get there, that means 700 kilometers an hour, it would take 2 hours to get to your destination. Does that make sense?
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, I'm saying 700 kilometers. Okay, the plane goes 700 kilometers top speed the whole time. And it takes 1400 kilometers to go from Toronto to England. So that means in 2 hours, 1400 kilometers. That means in 2 hours we'd be there. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that the distance between the 2 points is 1400
Yeah, I'm just making up a number.
going 700 kilometers
an
per
hour.
hour,
So in 2 hours.
then it's 2 hours. I
Okay. So
accept
now,
that.
okay. So now let's say we go back from England to Toronto, the same ideal, 700 kilometers and it's 1400 kilometers. It would be the same time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now when they talk about the planet moving 1400 kilometers an hour, when do you factor that in there? This is NASA talking now.
Oh, oh, I can explain that. It's the same as with the car. I'm in my car and I throw a ball in the air and it lands in my hand. That means that inside the car, it's isolated from outside. So whatever's happening on the globe, including the atmosphere, it's isolated from space. So no matter how fast the Earth is traveling, it's not going to affect what's happening
Okay, so
on the
Jay, let me ask you,
atmosphere.
Jay, let me ask you something. That means if I'm going from east to west and I'm going 700 kilometers to my destination, which is 1400 kilometers, and I have behind me a planet that's going from east to west, 1400 kilometers an hour. And then when I go the opposite way, now I have it going towards me 1400. How do you factor in the direction of the kilometers of the planet moving? One
You
would aid you, the other one would be against you, and it would be different times by days. The planet
you
doesn't move.
don't. They're
Mhm.
independent systems.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll go with that. We'll go with that for you.
You would say that when you're flying through the atmosphere, you're isolated
Okay.
from the globe moving through
Okay.
space. So you wouldn't factor it, or it would be negligible. You would it would add up because you're in a system, the globe, that's isolated from the system, the galaxy, or the solar system, where the planets are moving around, and they're so
Okay. We'll go with that. No,
so
you don't have to explain to me. We'll go with that. If that's what
they're
you value,
going
if you value that, yeah. Well, you
the
don't have to explain it
globe
to me.
is the globe is moving pretty fast, but
Mhm.
it's going through space, and it's a vacuum supposedly. There might be meteors and dust, but then that would hit the atmosphere and they would get dissolved or
Mhm.
whatever.
Oh, I heard you. I get it. Okay. We'll go with that.
Oh, but there are weather system that's being caused by the Earth spinning, so that could be factored in as those winds could be blowing against or with the plane. That could affect the speed of the plane itself, couldn't it?
No, I share it. And you share back. I appreciate that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was just an example we gave each other. That's all. That was there's so many other things we can chit chat about it. I was just giving you an example and you were giving me an example back. So thank you.
Hmm. Hmm. I invited Rami to this gathering, but I didn't hear back from him. So and
No
that
problem.
he answered back. He says, just got your message. One conquered death once and for all. Oh, yeah, because I wrote to him and says, do you want to join us for an impromptu Zoom meeting? This is on Messenger at 7:30 a.m. this Monday morning. I know that it's last minute announcement, but I got one going with special guest Domenic Persini.
Well, thank you, by the way.
Said him last Saturday morning. Perhaps we could discuss death and whether one can conquer death.
Mm.
I will tell him that I invited someone else to join us. So there's a chance that you may show up, but I won't invite anyone else for this. It's probably too late anyway, and you probably won't see this message anyway. And if you do, it may be too late. Like he just saw it. He saw it at 9:23 a.m. just a few minutes ago. So I wonder if
But,
he'll join anyway.
well, I'm glad that you do this because, a lot of people that do Zoom, I get it. I'm a social butterfly. So for me to chit chat with my buddies and we have a conversation. The smaller the group, the more quality the group is. Sometimes it can be lost when there's a big group because it's kind of like being in the cafeteria. It's a lot of noise, whatever. So I'm grateful that you do this, Jay. I really appreciate it. Like I said, on Saturday, go ahead.
He didn't join, or he probably won't anyway. But yes, I suggested we might discuss death and the resurrection, or how can one conquer death? Can one self conquer death? Is that like enlightenment and the last life in this cyclic experience of being born and dying? Is that how one conquers death, by conquering our desires, our attachments, until we don't want to come, you don't need to come back or don't want to come back?
Well, that's something I've always pondered for myself. I made it a conscious thought that I don't want to do this again, but that implies that I've done it before. So that opens up a lot of things for me to ponder. Conquering death is kind of like saying conquering life. You always have to bring its duality side to it. So, and you also mentioned in your talk right here about attachment. I think that's pre-designed in this program. So when we come here, you're always going to have those challenges. You know, be in the world but not of the world. You know, it's a nice statement, but for most of us, we are going to be attached to something, whether it's to a loved one, attachments to a job. That presupposes that death is an unknown realm. When maybe death could be this world, and life could be an internal world. You know, this opens up all kinds of philosophy. You know, and then people bastardize language, such as in not language but scriptures, and then they say, well, Jesus basically, you know, resurrected one of his peasants or his disciples, and meanwhile he's having his last supper and he's saying, this is my blood and this is my food. It sounds like more like he's a vampire than anything else. That, you know, there is stories about immortal beings that can live up to 1,000 years, and then there's mortal beings, which is we can live up to 120 years in this form. But that doesn't answer the question, what is an immortal being? You know, the Gnostic teachings about, they communicated with ascended masters. Well, only thing I understand here, you have to have masters and slaves. And then that means if you have an ascended master, then you have to have a descended slave. I don't value those two. Those are both conditionings. I'd rather be more of an observer and some sort of a server. I don't need somebody else to condition me to be a master, let alone a slave. And I think a lot of these guys that are masters here, yeah, they become ascended masters on another plane, but they're probably still working for somebody, because the master still works for somebody. You know, so the whole concept of life and death, philosophically, we can talk about it. But if a person starts bringing hard facts and they use the scriptures, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm talking to one of these guys again. You know, one of these Jesus pushers, you know, and I know Rami does do that. I've heard him talk and I'm like, oh, fuck, I really don't, hope I don't have that conversation. Because I already know he's not going to talk about him. Did you experience it? Because I didn't experience going on the moon. If I did experience the moon, how would I explain it to somebody else? And vice versa. If I told other people that I actually staged all of that, how would I tell anybody? This goes back to, you have to experience it yourself, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. Sometimes you can experience things without physically, hence intuition and insight. But, you know, I don't like when people become thumpers. You know, I'm my own thumper. And by that, I mean, I'm not trying to convince anybody of their story. That's why when we were just talking about this thing about, you know, how the earth or isn't, you told me your story, I told me mine. I'm not here to convince you of your story. And I'm doing my own investigation. NASA, to me, I could care less if they're God Almighty themselves. I have to experience it myself. This is the whole ideal of having choices, you know, and are those choices already a template that they gave me? I said, fine, but at least let me play with those choices that you gave me, you know? And this is why we have so many dogmas. You know, people will say, well, I don't believe in dogma of commerce, but you work for it. So it wouldn't make sense. At least you try to understand it. Same like playing chess. Don't worry about just winning and losing. Try to understand the game. Understand what the wise person does. Why did they change the pieces on the board back in the days when it was Parisian that first introduced chess? You know, it's just one of these things. And I really don't like having those conversations with people because I know me, I'll get really rowdy. And I'm the kind of person, especially when I'm private, I'm like saying, you honestly think you understand that shit? And that's me being the agitator for myself. Those are the conversations I have with myself. I'm like, Dom, do you honestly think you know all that shit? You know, so it's life and death is it's a philosophy question. It's like talking about the known and unknown. You know, a lot of people, if they were honest with themselves, they're either frustrated here and they want to leave, or they want to find out how can I prolong it because I'm having a good time while I'm here. Every time I turn 50, then 60, because I have a couple of buddies, you know, they don't like aging. So I walk around with a beard because I just don't want to shave. And say, well, Dominic, I don't like that. Who the fuck cares what you like? It's my beard. Yeah, but it has gray hair. Once again, it's my beard. And then of course, eventually they're honest. So let's make it about you then. What do you, well, every time I see people with a beard, it reminds me I'm getting older. Really? My dad's 79 years old and he still rides his bike and he can talk to anybody. And you honestly think he's old? Maybe physically he might be old, but mentally, emotionally, my dad, to me, he leads by an example. He doesn't tell other people what to do. And if he does, it'll be done privately. He'll tell my cousins, so listen, you're acting like an idiot. Back in the days when you had grandparents or uncles and aunts, they would take you in the back of the barn and say, listen, I don't like the way you're treating your wife. I think that's disrespectful and it's a bad example for the rest of us. You know, so this is why, you know, like I said, I've listened to Rami talk and I'm like, okay, you're one of those, you know, what are you gonna talk about Buddhism next? When you start talking about labels, Buddhism, Christianity, talk about Jung, you're basically a parrot. Now, if you say, listen, I've learned from a particular teaching, you don't need to know where the teaching came from, that I should be a better person. Good for you, my friend. Because you already have a name, you know, you have a name, you know. I like when some of these guys, I got to change my name. I got to change my name to Ramadan or maybe Muji or something. I'm like, fuck off. Really? You know, especially these guys, they have pictures of their guru behind them. He's dead. Oh, why do you have a picture of the guy? You know what I mean? Like, come on, really? Like this, you know, let the dead bury the dead. You know what I mean? If you see the Buddha, kill it. Why? Because you're too busy caught up in it's, oh, look, I'm a Buddhist. Look, I'm wearing this orange robe. Look at me, I'm fasting. Oh my goodness, this and that. I'm like, okay, so how does that apply to guys like me and you? Are you going to give up everything you have tomorrow and go to a retreat where you do a silent retreat for 10 days? I've done it. Are you going to do it? And I found it humorous because I realized people would do a retreat and then complain after the 10-day retreat, people were farting. I said, well, part and parcel, the reason is because your body's speaking to you. You've changed your diet because most people aren't vegetarians when they go to those things. And at the same time, I tell them after, I said, let me understand this. It is a silent retreat, right? You can't control your body, but can you control your thoughts and your emotions? Well, yeah. I said, why is it at nighttime when Goenka, this was one of these old guys, he's no longer with us, but him and his wife would be talking about, you know, some of the teachings. And then people would start laughing some of his jokes. Didn't they not break their silence? Sure they did. So this is why I find it humorous when people say, but I practice it. I said, don't the Jews go to the Wailing Wall and do all those traditions? Or the Muslims that they go to the Saturn cube and they sacrifice an animal to the altar of Satan. And then they say, but I've done my pilgrimages to Mecca. And I tell a lot of Muslims, I say, listen, let me understand something. Do you know where they used to pray 5 times a day to before they did to Mecca? Petra. Why? Because that was the economic hub of the world at the time. And most Muslims don't know that because they're too busy doing tradition. How many Christians, they say, listen, it's Easter Sunday, I got to do tradition. Who is the God of Easter? Esther. Who is that? You know, no different. Jesus was born and died on Christmas Day. That's commerce. This is the story that the Romans, the Babylon, these are all stories. Now, there could have been Hindu gods. Let's go with it. But what was the teachings behind it? You know what I mean? Like this, when a person sees a Hindu god, I mean, a Hindu guru or whatever, and he's sitting there and he's all almost naked and he's sitting there doing a yoga position, because if they understand yoga, that certain positions relieve certain kinds of emotions in certain parts of the body. None of this where you wear your tight pants and all that. That's just another bastardization of the word, which is fine. And like most people, they're caught up in pleasures. So a guy that says, well, I read the book every day. Okay, so you read the Bible, all of them? Do you read the ones that weren't included in it, talking about giants? What kind of giants are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like these are the stories where people don't realize the book itself reveals itself. Anything that's inspired to be written can only be understood through inspiration. The only reason why it was written, because most people forgot to go inwards. So they have to leave it like a notepad. Like most of us, they use a calculator now. So most of us forgot how to use numbers in our heads. That's the whole ideal of having a cell phone. It makes us lazy. Well, I'm taking a picture. What about the pictures that right here we have in our eyes? I get it. Like I'm talking from the point of view, I enjoy the pleasures of this world, but I also realize, I also know it's this double-edged sword. So this is why when you ever hear a person talking about Christ, you already know you're talking to somebody who's going to tell you this long story. This is my story, Dom. I went to Jesus. I was saved by him. How were you saved by him? You're still here. And is God one of those gods where you see a baseball player throwing a strikeout and then he prays to God, does all these, the crosses and up to God, and meanwhile the next batter hits a home run and he starts doing the thing. So what, is he a funny God? You know what I mean? Like we're dragging in. It's like me and you. If we have a father and me and you have a problem, and our father, so listen, Jay, I'm going to go tell Dad. Dad would turn around and say, no, you boys work it out. Why do you keep calling on the father? Work it out. This is where people say, well, I'm a Christian. I don't believe in Muslims. Well, why not? They're human beings, last time I remember. It's a funny story, because I was raised Roman Catholic. I think I studied Roman Catholic, and I'm like, okay, so I better study Quran. Okay, I better start Hindu. I better start studying some of the teachings of Buddhism and Hinduism. And I'm like, it's all the same story, meaning that it's all a joke, because people don't take accountability for themselves. A farmer would know more than most people. Dom, one thing I know is, because I've been to Italy quite a few times, tomorrow I got to plant some seeds. How do you know that? Well, you can call it God, but I know enough that I have to plant some seeds. Why? Because whatever created me, I need food. This is where people do a lot, and I'm doing it right now, Jay, doing a lot of this. We do a lot of this. And hey, that's great. If a person wants to be intellectual, hey, I'll play with it. They want to be emotional, and a person wants to say, listen, Dominic, when I was young, I was violated. I'm sorry to hear that for you, but I'm also sorry for the person that did it for you, because I don't know whether or not that person got violated too. This is where people become so selfish. It's all about me, Dom. Oh, me, as opposed to the we, the we within oneself, not outside. You got a kingdom, and a king and queen have to be together, and they have to be respectful for all the other people in their kingdom. That's why the mind has to serve the rest of the body, not the other way around. Well, Dominic, this is what I think. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Please share, but don't try to convince me, because you've already tried to convince your own kingdom. And then the question is your kingdom working well? If my kingdom's working well, I think differently, Jay. I know me. It's like my wife's learned how to write with both hands. Writing with both hands plays with different hemispheres. So what you write with your right hand is logical. What you write with your left hand is creative, but they have to work together. And same with the heart, same with the spleen, same with the sole of your feet, same with your hand. This is such an amazing technology. If I ever met aliens and they said, you want to come with me? I said, no, I got a lot of questions first. What do you mean? How did you create us? This is for my own personal growth. I'm not here to write another book. There's too many books in the world already as it is. I wish they would burn half of them. And now we're doing podcasts. I get it. I mean, I don't mind if you record this. You can do whatever you want with it. I'm not that kind of person wearing, well, no, I want people to hear me. No different. They want to be heard. But the only difference is with a book, at least you can't agitate it. You can't tell the guy, so listen, you wrote the book. How many times was it edited? How many times was it changed? Did you even write the book? Oh, no, Dom, I just put my name on it. So that's not even you then. Jesus never wrote nothing. Socrates never wrote nothing. And there's a reason why they never wrote nothing. Because they know human behaviors. They're going to distort the story. Plato was an idiot. The four gospels, they're idiots. This is my view on it. Now, a person might turn around and say, well, Dominic, well, that's wrong. I said, and you thinking that you're going to throw your knee down and say, oh my God, those four gospels. I'm just doing the opposite. I'm willing to challenge the universe. Now, people would get upset with that. I said, because you're not developed. I'm doing this because I know I need to bring the best out of me. And sometimes got to get a little angry with myself. You know, who is Matthew? Who fucking cares? I'm asking the question, who fucking cares? The person that cares, does it work for you? Well, yes. Well, then if it works for you so well, then why are you trying to convince me of it? You know what I mean? People can quote the Bible like there's no tomorrow. No different if I go to Home Depot and ask somebody, I say, listen, where would I find a witch screws? That person would, with their program, tell me exactly what aisle to get it. That's how they think. They're not telling me, well, do you know what to do with those screws? Well, Dominic, you came to the right person. I'm a carpenter. Oh, great. Opposed to, no, Dominic, I just know where the number is. That's a Christian for you right there. Mimicking, parroting. And they'll say, well, Dom, these are my views. I'm like, okay, so then why did you use the scripture? Just tell me your story. I don't need to quote scriptures. You know, the whole concept of know thyself was, oh, Dom, think about that. Who's the knower and who's the self? Self-love, love self, two different things. The self is, if it's loving itself, that's pride. Loving the self, meaning that the self, the program, whether it's bad or good, you're showing love. I'm not here to judge it. Who am I to judge the program? Me and you are using a language. Did we create this language? No. Did we learn the language externally? Maybe, but did we learn most of the language inside their mom's womb when your mom was speaking a language, or your mom had fears? And then later on in life, you find out, Mom, I have a fear. Where did I get it from? Well, son, I don't know if you have any fears, but I had fears when you were in my womb. Oh, so I inherited it from you. Well, thanks for being honest. Now I know it's not mine. Then I can distinguish my fears to somebody else's fears. This is why people don't realize how this machine might work. I can't say how it does work, but it might work. But we wait patiently that maybe the next scientist, whoever he may be or she is, they'll tell us, well, Dom, I'm a biologist. Okay, that's nice. That guy's a Christian. And I just told you, I don't fucking care what he thinks he is. What is his teachings? What is your teaching? What do you understand about blood? You know, when you do, when they take blood and they put it on a what you call it? Chip, I can't even pronounce the word, I apologize, but one of those plates, whatever. Once you put blood into open oxygen, it changes its components. So to think that for some reason, the person that has an ailment inside of them, and then once you put it on a plate or whatever it's called, it changes components. So whatever studies you do from that point on is misleading from what it is when it's in the body. And this is the shit that we're taught. This is why when people talk about, in case viruses, there's other things going on that has nothing to do with the virus. That's just a distraction. UBI, universal basic income. They have digital currency. They're playing their eugenics. They also give in the United Nations a one-time debt relief. So if you basically have a mortgage or you have buildings and you have a big mortgage, they'll give you a one-time debt release. You sign a piece of paper that you hand over all your possessions to us. You're debt free. Same with student loans and all that. This is how you have a society become haves and have-nots. We've never had a kingdom, this world, where it's been one ruler. Not, you know, when Rome had it, they had to bring a whole bunch of foot soldiers. When England had it, they had to bring a bunch of boats. Today in America, they had to bring a bunch of planes. Now they have technology such as you can survey, you can analyze people, make everybody pay with their phones digitally. We don't realize we're in a shift. It might take 10 years. This COVID's going to go on for 10 years, on and off. But you know, humans might complain, but the truth of the matter is, haven't we been relying on all the old systems anyway? You know, like really, a farmer that wants to work with nature, he works with nature. That's his responsibility for his own necessities. Now, whoever plays a trick game and saying, I own the land or I own the air, that's just another game. But if enough people fall for the game, that one person that's playing the game thinking, I got them all convinced, good for me. I'll spend most of my life to keep that game tuned. You know, a chess master is only good at remembering moves, not to take away the fact that he's expanded his mind to record things, but he's not that smart. He only knows how to play chess. He's not going to understand politics. And if he does, he might see the simplistic of politics. He might see the simplistic of being a doctor. You know, that's how we're all at. We're at a very simplistic level. That's why I say we're not hard to understand. We're only confusing only because we make ourselves confused. We play this defense and attack game where it would be nice that you could talk to any total stranger and say, listen, Jay, I really like you as a person, but there's certain behaviors you do is not advantageous for you, let alone for the community. But people don't talk that way anymore. What people usually do is like, it's none of my business. But you live in a major city. It'd be different if you lived out in a farm and you lived 2 kilometers away from me or 2 miles away from me. But I would still knock on your door. I said, listen, Jay, I just want to give you a heads up. I had a couple of chickens die in my pen last night. So I don't know if it was a fox or whatever, and I don't want you to lose anything. That's caring for each other. You know, I'm caring about what's happening in my community overall, not just in my own kingdom. But most people, what they do is, it's none of my business. Listen to the word, none of my business. So it can only be based on economics. I'm only a police officer because they pay me. I'm only a military guy because he pays me. So then explain to me why when kids go to school, why aren't the kids not getting paid? You know, they're not going to understand the teachers that are getting paid. Has to work both ways. And then they talk about sweatshop. That's a sweatshop. Sending kids to school and okay, you're not paying them, but you're forcing them to learn everything about commerce. What's the difference between a kid that's working in China building Nike shoes or a kid working in Hollywood as a child actor? That's a sweatshop still. Unless you're going to teach everybody and say, listen, son, you're my child. You're born in my farm. You're going to be my apprentice at a young age because one day you're going to take over the business or you're going to work that. Well, then we all should work at any age. You know, that opens up another can of worms. You know, I can't say can of worms, but it opens up other possibilities. Because we're not going fishing today, so we don't need worms, Jay. I say that jokingly because I know me, I can get carried away. So this is just me talking out loud. And I know this is where, when I was telling Louise, this is where I suffer because I don't have that button where I can say, well, Dom, just ignore it. I said, I've been doing that most of my life. I don't want to ignore anymore. I know. Okay, now I might sound like a old Dom. You think change should happen? I said, no, I'm talking about awareness. I wouldn't know what it would take to make the world a better place, or let alone a worse place. That's why I agitate. I agitate myself because I'm always keeping myself. It's like the guy that says, Dominic, I got to go running tomorrow. Why? Because if I want to keep that weight off, I got to go running, even though it's running. You got to agitate yourself to get back out there. Because if not, you know, you're not going to maintain it, right? It's like when Joel told you the other day that I didn't know that. I saw one of your videos where, you know, you have something on your nose. I didn't know you had COVID or whatever, but it's still not my responsibility. But the fact that I know now is I hope you take care of yourself, but that's your responsibility. You know, like, I don't know how you got there and I hope the best for you because I was talking to a gentleman yesterday on one of the meetups and he had said he almost died when he was young. I said, I'm glad you're still with us. But that could be a double-edged sword. You know, somebody will say, yeah, I was trying to commit suicide, but it didn't happen. Oh, okay, who am I to tell you? You know, but then of course, religious tell you that's a sin. I don't know. If that's a sin, then what's euthanasia then? Is that a sin? You know, how many people that don't believe in abortion, but yet they'll go to protest and say we should kill people that do abortions. Isn't that a hypocritical position to be? You know? You know, back in the Jesus story, you know, whoever Jesus was, you know, the story they're written about, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. People don't realize in America, when they have in the back of the $1 bill, in God we trust, they didn't really want to make it open. The one eye above the pyramid, the name of that thing is called money. And money we trust. That's what people trust in, money. They're only going to work for money. This has nothing to do with nature. If anything else, one of the side effects for working for money, we neglect nature or we destroy nature. That's the thing, but we need nature. We need the water. We need the animals. Now, that's not about population. You know, you can have 7 billion people easily feed off of 2 major states in America. But unfortunately, a lot of the elites want to have all their major waterways for their nice commerce stuff. And we all do. You know, I tell my buddies all the time, I said, listen, if you don't agree with the oil companies, then why don't you contribute your money towards another corporation? Buy running shoes, buy Nike shoes. That's just from one corporation to another. If you don't believe in that, it's harming the environment. Oh, we should go with coal fusion. We should go with electricity. I'm like, no, there's too many people that want few people to do everything for them. That's the problem. We've become a lazy species, but yet we want to point fingers. Oh, Donald Trump, he's the problem. China, they're the problem. Really? So why don't you point towards oneself and say, listen, do I want to grow my own food? Well, I don't know if I can, but no, I don't want to. So you like your comforts? Yes. Well, then shut up. That's what I tell people, shut up. Don't interfere anymore. If you don't like GMO in your food, then grow your own food. If not, shut up. So this way, other people that are actually going to do something about it, whether positive or negative, we can hear them. Too many people complain about things and don't realize. Do you realize how hard it takes to feed 6 billion people in the world? You know, especially when you have most of the people in the kingdom don't want to do nothing. So even if I wanted to be a king and I wanted to serve everybody else, they want to take, take, take. You know, to be giving and receiving, it has to be a duality thing. It has to go back and forth within oneself. You know, and most people don't want that. And I get it. We live in a society right now, Jay, and it'll probably go on for a couple more generations. We're comfortable. We're also displaced. You know, we can go to a grocery store, we can go to a shopping mall and buy whatever we want with a piece of paper that somebody gives us in exchange for our energy. And then we think we're independent. No, the most we can ever be is interdependent. If you don't want to be around humans, then go to nature and become interdependent. Anybody that tells me independent, I'm thinking, okay, I'm talking to a child again. Well done. But Dom, I'm 60 years old. You're still a child. I got a degree. You're still a child. But I'm a professor. You're still a child. Anything else you want to talk about? Because I'm hearing a lot of excuses. And then eventually they get really mad. Then they start attacking me. I'm thinking, so there's that emotion now. You're not developing emotionally because I'm telling you something you should already know about yourself. If you're okay with living with a drug dealer, then you're okay. It's like me and you right now. We're talking. I'm talking a little bit. I apologize, but a little bit more than need to be. We're in a community where we know there's the mafia. There's a mafia owner, okay? Me and you can have private conversations. Say, listen, you know, Jay, the Tony down the street there, he's a piece of crap. He treats everybody like shit. But that's a private conversation. Now, he might even privately say, listen, Dominic, Jay, I know I'm a piece of shit, but I'm glad you're telling me this privately, because if you do it publicly, I got to get one of my guys to beat you up, to be the example. This is why when you have police officers, military, those are public workers. Laws are set up for public, not private. So anytime you do something, this is why when people complain about being banned on YouTube, I said, well, you don't understand. You signed a document to monetize your system, and YouTube is classified as public. If it's a private conversation and you state it quite clearly, me and you and Lewis go to a restaurant and we decide, all of us, three of us, in a public environment, that we're going to have a private conversation, and somebody, a table over, here's our conversation and here's something that's kind of rude and takes us to court, we could turn around and counter sue and say, listen, you violated a private conversation. Do you understand now how laws work? God works in the private. What you do in the private will come out into the light, kind of ideal. But at the same time, did you say it out loud? Did you say it within? This is a private conversation. This is between me and you. I'm not here to be concerned. Most religions are set up publicly. And when people donate all that money every year to all the religions, they gather $73 trillion a year from all the religions, and they go to a family. Because they think for some reason that the Catholic Church, when the Pope is bending his knees to the Rothschilds, you see who's the ruler. When the Dalai Lama is bending his knees to the Pope, or all the other Hebrew people are kissing the Pope, is because there's chain of command. And they're still all low, you know, but people think, but that can't be. I said, you really don't understand how the system works. You're in a kingdom that's already ruled. You never see the owners, but it has rulers. And to understand that, shouldn't you at least respect who the rulers are? Like me and you, I can say whatever I want about the king and queen. But if I was in her presence, I would say, what do you want to hear? You want to hear publicly or privately? Because privately, I'll tell you the truth. Publicly, I already know there's certain things, if I say, you're going to have to respond by getting somebody. It's no different if me and you went to a bunch of Satan choice guys. I'll ask them, I said, listen, privately, guys, I'm not here to interfere, but can you explain to me all the patches? What do you do to be initiated? You know, one of the biggest initiation in Satan's and to be in one of those clubs is once you get to a certain level, a bunch of guys have to piss on you. See, but people don't realize, but even the Satan choice gangs, they're run by different clubs. You know, they think for some reason they smuggle and steal cigarettes and all that for no reason. No, that's companies stealing from themselves. Like back in the days, you know, when England and Britain used to have peace and all that. Well, how they used to do their business still was they would put up and pay private pirate flags. That's how they used to steal from each other. It's like even now with Germany. Germany actually won the war. People think it's the other way around. No, Germany won the war. That's why we have a German queen and we had a pope that was German. No, they won the war. But what they did is like even they did back in England. England won the war against France, but they said, listen, France, keep your flags up still. Make the people still feel like as though France is still there, but we won the war. And that's the same with Russia and all that, because Germany had won the war, because Stalin, what's his name, Churchill and all that, they were all Masons. They already knew what they were going to do. This is how you get a world government. I've studied international trade for many years, and a lot of it had to do with they're going to have a global market. So when America and Canada does free trade, that has nothing to do with me and you, Jay. This has to do with the elite people that have millions of goats and millions of land. They can do free trade. They don't play with money. That's wealth. You know, the people that play with money, like Warren Buffett, he'll say he'll pay $200 million worth of taxes, but Warren Buffett gets a check the next day for $1 billion. Because they don't pay taxes. You know, Starbucks doesn't pay taxes. Walmart does not pay taxes because among their own club members, we might look like we pay taxes, but we don't, because we own the land and we own what's on top of the land. You know, this is why when people say to me, I own the house, I say, yeah, but you don't own the land. What do you mean? Well, you pay taxes. You don't have allodial rights. In America, it's still owned by the Queen, the corporation of the Queen now. That's no longer about queens and kings and popes. It's about corporations. You know, so this is why when a person says, I have rights, yeah, you do have rights as a human being, but not in corporations. You can't have rights in an entity that doesn't exist. And this is why when I hear even Lewis talking about it, I already know. I said, Lewis, you're a nice guy and all that, but the shit that you know, fuck, I can scratch that on my fingernail. Because I realize to be happy in a world that you don't know all this stuff, that's the term where you hear people say, their naivety is our bliss. That's coming from the elites. Their naivety is our bliss. Them not knowing better.
Wow, you're such an agitator. You have to join the meetup on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. It's Plato's Cave. I'll send you a link. And
Is
it's
it
a
the
small
same
group. It's about eight to 10 people, and they talk about these things, or they towards the end of the meeting, it starts at 9, and towards the end of the meeting around 10:30 or earlier, they decide what they're going to talk about next. And this coming Sunday, the topic it's interesting. I think they're trying to figure out how have we failed society in our education system, like, and is there a proper way to educate our kids? Like, what would you do? Like,
well, I can tell you right
how
now.
how to get people to think critically and rationally. Like the educational system is just to regurgitate what's given to them. How to educate them to think for themselves and question.
I guess I would say right now, me and you want to present it to the group, I might even join, where we're ignoring education. What we're doing is learning schooling. Educate is totally different. What they teach in school has nothing to do with educate. Educate means to bring out. If you find out that you're good with numbers, you're good with astrology, that's educate. And then like Confucius would teach. Confucius' teaching was the first 13 years is the responsibility of the parents to find out the gift that that child has, whether from the two parents or from his own reincarnation or rebirth, if people value that. And then after the 13th year, this is where the development comes in, the 7 and all that, where now you hand it over to the community to fit that child in there so they can grow with it. They have some, that child has something to bring to the community. But the schooling system is about commerce. It's an old 200-year-old system that was passed down from England and all that, because they would have slaves and they said, we don't want to learn their language, we want them to learn our language, to learn simple tasks. That's the schooling system. So it's not about the education system's failed. How can you become aware that the system that's in place now was never designed to work? Educate is something you do from within. So these guys, if they talk about that and they go on, I already know, I'm talking to a bunch of kids. I said, you have no clue, you're robbing the wrong bank.
Oh, you should join that meeting this coming Sunday so you can agitate them. They love to be agitated.
But hold on, Jay, I'll share this with you because I'm only talking me and you. When I are you there? Did you disappear? Don't disappear on me, buddy. Are you there, Jay? Jay? Okay, I'll wait.
There I am.
Okay. I lost you for a second there. I was gonna share something. I say the word agitate because that's what I do with myself. But when I do it with other people, it drains me because
drains you.
I'm not here. I only do that because I get some people sometimes they do attack, and I'm like, you've never met me before. When I do defend and attack, it's a child's game for me. The defend and attack is a guy that defends with a gun and attacks with a gun. It's the same cycle. That's two children playing a game. And for me, I only agitate or try to get their attention so they can actually do the work themselves. I'm not here to say to somebody, okay, I'm going to be your fitness instructor. No, I'll show you. You can watch what I do in the gym. The rest is up to you. I'm not here to teach you anything. And I'm not. I don't value the concept of an external teacher. So when I agitate, it hurts me more because I know I get really frustrated and I feel like telling somebody, you fucking idiot, you moron, who failed you? You know, and I know that's really rude on my part, but at the same time, I'm thinking, but he's going on about shit that has no value for anybody but himself. And if it is good for himself, then keep it to himself. I'm about the we. I start off at the very beginning. Humanity is a disgusting race. I can work from that. Other people will say, oh, it's beautiful. Then why are you here? You're here to refuel yourself? Well, Dom, I got to go in about an hour. Then why'd you come here? You're like going to a baseball game. You show up late, you come late. No, to me, if this is important to you, be important. If it's not important, it's just one of these little fly-by-night things, then don't be here. And that's why more times not when I go, I'll join a meetup and I'll probably leave it the same day. Just because I realize I'm not here to teach anybody anything. I'm here to learn for myself. And I can share with other people when I learned a little bit more for myself. I'm not going to share my crops with other people that are selfish. Now, if I have an over and abundance, I might consider otherwise. And there's times I don't have that much and I'll still share with somebody else. But more times than not, most people, Jay, I'll say this with all sincerity, are selfish human beings. For them to understand what educate is or isn't, the fact that they're talking about it, they don't understand it. Educate means come from within. Now you can share things. I don't know where these people get the concept of debating. I'm not here to debate with another human being. I do that with myself, you know, because it's me that's gonna learn. And then I could be the example indirectly, not directly. I'm not here to, when I talk among kids, I'm hoping that there's kids that are going to at least note what I have to say because they have a chance. When I'm talking to a whole bunch of people, I know there's only a couple of people there the message is meant for them at least to hear. It's like when you had said, well, Dominic, I never noticed about the thoughts and all that. That was for you to at least ponder. Who might it tell you? Because then the next question come out of your mouth, then where do the thoughts come from? I don't know. But I know thoughts don't exist on the material. That's the one step. That's it. I couldn't tell you any more. It's like I could change tires. Doesn't mean I can fix the whole car. So I can't say I'm a mechanic now. I'm an electrician. There's quite a few things I do in the electrical field, but I don't do digital. I don't do electronics. I don't do PLCs. So when somebody says to me, Dominic, I'm an electrician, and he thinks he's the cat's meow, I'm thinking, really, you want to come down to my world? You know, this is to keep everybody in check, and that's our responsibility, to keep each of us in check, but preferably oneself. Now, I know I get carried away and I talk stupid a lot of times, but I only say that because I get frustrated, part and partial, because I realize people live in this fairy tale world, which is fine. There might even be fairies in this world. But at the same time, how does that better another person? Now, somebody will say, well, Dominic, but I don't care anybody else. And then why the fuck did you have kids? Besides accident. This is where I really get snippy because I said, you're dragging a kid into a situation that they're going to inherit that. Now, I'm not to say whether it's right or wrong to teach your kids to be good or bad. That's your choice. But then you also have to look at the end result of the math question. What was the outcome from it? Like, you know, if we're going to use math, let's use math. If we're going to use science, like Mike's a mathematician. I'm like, okay, you're still a child to me. You just don't know it yet because I don't mind entertaining myself. And I say that about everybody, including me, first and foremost. So when I put myself at that bottom, then I can have nothing but to grow from that. But if anybody thinks he's up there, I'm like, okay, so where does language come from? Who invented steel? Well, I don't know that. I said, so then why did you put yourself up here? This is why when people say they're a priest, I said, you're an idiot. I'm a politician, you're an idiot. When did you ever think that you're supposed to represent another human being? When? You know what I mean? And if the person said, but I care about my own family, I said, okay, so then shouldn't the queen do the same thing? She cares about her own family. Only difference is she could do more damage. We're one family. We're all one family. Is it dysfunctional? That's for sure. But to be honest about it, I hear people talk about the truth movement. I go, the fucking truth movement. What you call truth is your own perception. You can't speak on behalf of everybody else. I'm just giving you things that don't belong to me. Thoughts, they're not mine. I get to experience them. Emotions. When somebody says, Dominic, but you own that emotion. No, I don't own that emotion. Its outcome I could probably own, but the emotion itself, I don't own. I'm expressing it, but how do I own it? And a person said, but you're not expressing it. Yes, you did. If you understand body language, you would know that I'm a little bit agitated. If you study, most people don't study. What most people do is they react. Well, Dominic, I'm going to go to university. I'll learn the 1 degree. I'll become a theologian. I'll learn 1 degree. I'll read a couple of books. And at the Vatican, not realizing reading books compared to oral teaching are 2 different things. But the book is old, Dom. Look at it. It has dust on it. I'm like, reading that book might have some purpose, but if you're not going to actually regurgitate it orally or within thoughts or meditate on it, it only brings you so much value. Now, if a person wants to learn that, all the power to them. As I'm talking to you today, I'm the one that's listening to me. And I said, Dominic, you're talking to another human being. The way you talk, sounds kind of crusty. Did you learn something from me? Yeah, I can still practice. Bingo. So it's not really personal against you, but you might interpret it as personal. That just reveals to oneself, am I walking around the whole time in my life making it about me, me, me? Why isn't Donald Trump doing anything for me? Why isn't Biden doing anything for me? Well, is he going to forget about himself? If he's honest with himself, he's in that business for his benefit. Everybody else can write his coattails. We don't live in a world where Donald Trump said, listen, guys, I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to help 3 million people in America become financially okay, healthy okay, and at the same time, I'm going to work so hard, I'm going to forget about me. How many people would do that, Jay? Give me a name. Just give me 1 name. I wouldn't even do it. So, see, this is where people don't understand. You put Jesus on a pedestal one day, and then you put him on the cross the same afternoon. That's the story. This is where when people talk about magic, oh, Dom, Jesus did this. Oh, fuck off. Really, I feel like telling this. I'm just talking to you. I'm not saying this. I feel like saying that to people. I feel like standing up in church and saying to people, fuck off. What do you think he's going to do today? There's people walking around. When I used to go to church with my mom, they used to walk around with these big arms so they can get, here's $1, here's $1. So we're working for money, are we? Would you take an apple? I'll stop and talk to homeless people. I said, listen, you're more fortunate than you realize it, but let me ask you something. How did you get to this point in your life? Positive and negative. You might have, some of them have told me, Dominic, I just don't want to be in the system anymore. Okay. But you're still in the system because aren't you begging? What's the difference between a homeless person or a monk saying I meditated all day like a cat, and then I go down to the community and ask for handouts? Monks are idiots. They just don't know it yet. But I'm trying to break karma. Don't you think being around a bunch of monks is karma? This is the funny world we live in. And then people wonder, why do I keep coming back over and over again? Well, Dom, I don't value reincarnation. Then why are you here the one time then? Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you come here the one time and own thousands of buildings? Well, that would be too much responsibility. Why don't you become a king? Why don't you become the Pope? This is the game that we play. I find it funny, personally. I wouldn't be Truman. I'd be the guy looking at everybody. I said, Truman at least is trying. The rest of what are you morons doing? Even the programmers, the people that's the programmers playing a game, but they're conditioned too. It's all conditioning. I look forward to having a conversation with Rami one day because I'll be entertained. I'm like, Rami, okay, so what's your views? I don't want to hear Buddha. What's your view? Really, I want to hear his view. What's your view? Now, you can take parts of it, but once you no longer, it's like when people say they're no longer alcoholics, but then meanwhile they have their 40th year chip or whatever. I said, you're still an alcoholic. Get rid of the idea you even have to have a chip. Talking about it keeps it alive. This is where I get my suffering, because I realize I'm not interested in writing a whole book on this, but I do talk to people about certain things, and some of it's repetitive. And I get bored of myself. I'm like, I'm going to share with somebody to get their attention. Do they see thoughts? No, they don't. So I don't mind doing that with kids, but then am I opening up something that's going to harm them later in life? Because they're going to see things that other people can't see. You know, it's like a parent saying, I'm their parent. I said, how do you not know it's the other way around? They're there to ask you questions because you need to learn. That's the apprenticeship program. You ask a person over and over again, it reinforces or at least questions why he does his craft. But people think I'm an electrician, so I'm going to tell the people, no, it doesn't work that way. It's the other way around. He has to ask you. He shouldn't have to work. He's an apprenticeship. I'm not going to ask an apprentice surgeon to work on me. I'm going to ask a professional seasoned surgeon to work on me, and the other guy can watch and ask questions to him, not on me. That's how it works. But unfortunately, most people, they don't get that. What they get is, well, Dominic, I got to go to work. No, you don't have to go to work. What do you mean? Well, back in the day, people would have to go to work to, if they want their food and all that. Today, we live in comfort. So you really don't even have to do that anymore. But there is consequences or rewards for that. I call them more rewards. You know, but if I don't go to work, I'll have food. I said, good for you. Then you can lose weight and there you go. You can look fit. You can look like an African starving. Good, well done. And I clap and then move on. Next child, please. I say that because would people be prepared to hear a politician call out on all the citizens that they're idiots? Donald Trump was reading from a script. He didn't write any of those. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to find out who was asleep. And most of the Americans are asleep. You know, oh, but we don't like Donald Trump, you know. But okay, what, you think Biden was going to be any difference? You think George Bush was going to be anything? You think Carter's going to be any difference? These guys are all bloodlines. They don't realize this. They don't. If me and you were billionaires, Jay, how are we going to understand the poor? How? If we were born in a royalty family, how are we going to understand anybody outside of our own servants? We're not. So when people have this fantasy of Buddha, Buddha was the Truman. He was seeking. Do you think anybody learned from the Truman story? Do you think anybody really learned from the story of Buddha? No, they didn't. Because most people have to experience it themselves. Would you give up a well-paying job as a lawyer to do what Buddha did? Ponder that. I know that. I know my own personal struggles. Jay, I left my electrical field many years. I've traveled, more of an escapism than anything else. But eventually one day I just decided I want to understand things. I don't want to know about things.
So now you are a true man. And I wish to be a true man too. In this True Man show that we're in.
Well, it will determine whether or not you're confident with being alone. Lonely, I'm always lonely. You know, me and you can go to the flea market and feel very lonely. You know, we see a whole bunch of people we talk to, but then, you know, there's going to be people saying, why are you talking to me? This and that. I'm never alone. But once you become aware of some things, I'm not aware of a lot of things, but I'm aware of some things. And I'm unaware of a lot of things. So that's why I use the word ignorant is, you know. But at the same time, to become aware of some things, it puts you that much further. Like I don't talk to my mom about religion. I say, Mom, if you value religion, all the power to you. I might ask her about scriptures, this and that, tell her the stories, and then that's about as far as my dad. I'll talk to him about certain things about, you know, how land works and all that. But overall, I try to resist trying to be that teacher because I realize if I quit smoking and I didn't like anybody tell me to quit smoking, why would I be now the opposite of that? So it's challenging because when I do meet people like yourself, Jay, whether this makes sense to you or not, you at least allow me to share out loud. And I'm grateful for that. You know, other people would be very defensive or they do the opposite. Oh, Dom, I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm like, where's your views? I'm openly showing you, I'm sharing you me. There's no way we can think alike. And if we do, it's like I've heard people say to me, Dominic, I don't understand you, but I disagree with you. Okay, you're being oxymoron, but here you go with that. Or we think alike. I'm like, I've never heard a word out of your mouth. So how do I know you think alike? Like to me, I'm just sharing. I know me. I know myself really well. I share. Whether I'm sharing in front of you, Jay, in front of my cats, to myself, pretending I'm using my headphones, I'm communicating with me, whoever I am or not, you know? But for a lot of people, they'll only talk if there's somebody else there. But even that, are you talking with them or at them? You know, this is where we learn, right? So even when you're talking about the, you know, Plato at whatever, I know I've been to enough philosophy clubs or whatever to realize these are just a bunch of men fucking doing pissing contests. They're really not here to challenge themselves. But I also will go. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
No, half of them are women, and they're very intelligent. And
well, let's hope they're intelligent, because that opens up the question: how do we know we're intelligent? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'm intelligent, but if somebody wants to say that, that's like somebody else saying,
or talk intelligently.
What's that?
Or at least they talk intelligently.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Like, I always think it's nice to have a compliment come from the outside, because for me to just give it to myself, that's arrogance. I don't know if I'm intelligent, and I think that's what always drives me to learn more. Now, some people will say to me, Dominic, but you're not emotional. I said, no, I have it in check. A developed emotion, you don't have to see it in the forefront. It's usually an underdeveloped. Oh, Dom, you're too emotional. You're too intellectual. I'm like, so then what are you? Well, I'm very emotional. Then why don't you lead? Because the person that asks a question is leading. The person that follows by answering their own question or giving possibilities, they're doing the leading and following. I just get to be the observer. Like I say, I'm sharing. That's all I'm doing. I'm sharing out loud. Literally, I'm sharing out loud. I'm not directing it towards you. But other people will say, listen, I want to argue with you. Somebody has to win this argument. I don't want to lose myself. What do you mean? This is my life that I live. This is where people get confused with themselves, where they think this is like watching soccer. And even soccer, you only see 1 or 2 goals. But what about all the passes in between, all the jostling going around, or all the practicing they got to do, or the coaching and all that? There's so many parts to it. I don't want to be stuck on, well, we had a debate and I'm going to tell you that I won the debate of Socrates. Well, last time I remember, Socrates not here. So he's not even here to represent himself. And if he was, he would say, whatever Plato wrote is bullshit, because that's not what I said. You see how the story gets warped, right? So this is why I count on more of whatever I'm communicating with myself. Now, that could be a jinn, that could be an angel, that could be me, that could be some clever being, whatever. But I'm still going to question it. I always question whatever. You know, when my wife does Reiki or my wife does healing, I'm like, do you question? She goes, Dom, I always question it, because you can always have tricksters. I could be a trickster. Who knows? But that's my responsibility. For somebody else, they could turn around and say, well, Dominic, I don't agree with you. What part don't you agree with? The language I'm using, the color I look like? Because most people, when they say they don't agree with somebody, they don't realize it's not really the teachings they're disagreeing with. They're bringing in programs. They don't like the way the person looks like. You know, how I know that? Think about it. When you go, Jay, to a stop sign, you see the word stop. There's also the color red, and there's also the square shape of it. You know, it's like a 8 square sign. More times than not. In some countries, they can get rid of the word stop. You'll know it's still stop, right? Because you see the red stop, right? So you're picking up other things, and you're not always being attentive to just the word. So when people see me, they're probably caught up more in seeing me than hearing me. And because we're using this device, I can touch the screen, but we can't touch each other. You can't smell me. You can't taste me. So 3 sensors are already gone. The only senses I got is over here. I can use them over here. So if I have my incense on, I'm smelling a sense. So for me and you, the only thing we're using is either A, visual, and hearing. If I put on a black screen, then you're only hearing me. Oracle teachings. But a lot of people don't realize your eyes can be misled. You know, a person says, well, Dominic, it's a woman talking. I say, well, she is in a female form, but she could literally be using both her feminine and masculine side. She could be a professor. She could be a doctor. She could be a physician. Those are all her personas. And then people will debate somebody about viruses, not realizing you're talking to a chemist. Yeah, but I'm a doctor. I said, most doctors don't become chemists. They learn 1 degree. I've asked my doctor, I said, Dr. Bertera, I call him what's his name? Julian, because that's his name. You know, I said, doctor, I don't need to call him Julian. I said, how do you deal with stress? He goes, I just keep working more. Oh, okay. So one day I was asking him, I said, Jewel, you're prescribing a medicine to my mom, just out of curiosity. You know, I know you're doing your investigation. Are you a chemist? He goes, well, not really, Dom. I said, I only took a couple hours in school and all that. I said, so you really wouldn't know much about what's in that, right? He goes, no, not really, Dom. I said, okay, no problem. Because I know they sign an oath where a doctor that's a bush doctor will say, I've tried different kinds of plants. So I'm my own physician. I'm not going to prescribe something to somebody if I haven't tried it myself. But most doctors never try things. So they're not going to know what a vaccine is or isn't. They're going to do whatever a chemist tells them. That's why doctors and nurses, they're just the front line. They don't really know where those swabs are coming from and going to. Same when people do blood tests. Most people don't understand when they're doing blood tests where it goes to. There is a blood blank, and there's people, like I said earlier, there's people that consume blood. It's like, when babies are born, the placenta is taken from them. The placenta actually from the baby is actually urine, and it's supposed to, when the baby's born, that's supposed to be fed to the baby because that's growth. But the elites understand that, and then they take that, the doctors take it, the hospital takes it, it goes to certain kinds of labs, and it's actually put in other things that other people feed off of because they understand growth. This is why a lot of babies are malnutrition. Most people don't learn that in most cultures, you have to wean your baby for at least 2 or 3 years with the mother's milk. Science is starting to discover that based on the milk, you could tell whether or not it's going to be a boy or a girl because both of them needs different kinds of nutrient. That's why when we get older, we're not supposed to have cow's milk unless you want to look like a cow. And you're not supposed to have goat's milk unless you want to be climbing walls and all that. That's a cheap effort for the body to try to get their calcium that should have been given the first 3 or 4 years of your life. If you miss it, it's too late. And the more you drink milk, the more it's harmful for us. This is the stuff I know, but I still practice it. I still drink my milk because it tastes good, not because it's healthy, because it tastes good. Like I'm a drug addict. We all are. To a certain point, Jay, we are. You know what I mean? It's, but until somebody presents it to you, some people don't want to know that information because they know they're not going to do nothing about it. I'm the kind of person, I just want to know for the sake of knowing. I already know I'm my own hypocrite. Like if somebody told me, Dominic, something's going to get stolen tomorrow, but nobody's going to die from it. I said, okay, well, are they professionals? Yes. I'm not here to interfere. Who am I to tell them otherwise? I might ask them, can you teach me something? Why? Not because I want to do anything about it. I want to know your craft. I'm that kind of guy that wants to learn things for the sake of learning, not because I want to make $1 off of it because I'm going to write a book. And most people, especially in the healing modalities, they're doing it because I want to get paid. Okay, I get it. You have to earn some money, but if that's the only, like my buddies used to always say, money's the bottom line. I used to say, I'll find out in a short period of time for you if it's the only line. Money should play a part. It could be one of the bigger parts, but you have to also be of service to humanity. You also have to be kind to humanity, considerate to humanity. And even if you want to be deceitful, no problem, but be honest about it. Hey, what do you think the real estate industry is all about? It's about manipulation. If I value the concept of an investment where a person buys a home or builds a home and lives there for 30 or 40 years. The investment is the kids were going to be raised in that community and it will develop a community. That's an investment. The other kind is you buy a house, you flip it. That's a financial investment. That has nothing to do with a development investment. Yeah, but for a person that's in that industry, what are they going to say? It's like a person that votes. He can't actually be neutral if he's already picked a side. That's why I don't vote, so I can play around more. That's my view. That's not to say that everybody should be that way, and they can do whatever they want. But at least they should understand why they do what they do. Why did you vote for Donald Trump? Why did you vote for Biden? Some of my buddies who are Canadians, I say, this has nothing to do with us, but why do you like Biden win there? Well, because I just don't like Donald Trump. So that means you know nothing about Biden. You don't understand that he was actually vice president the whole time when they had a stick figure of a black man in there and trillions of dollars went disappearing. And he made a lot of those laws change for prisons. What's his name? Obama. He was a stick figure. That's all he was. That's like Thatcher in England. She was a stick figure. It's the people that are behind the scene that run the country. It's always been that way. Not even the electrical votes aren't really that important, even though they count when it comes to selecting who the elites have chosen as their candidates, their COOs. That's how it works. Now, most people might think, well, what about the popular vote? Well, listen to the word, popular vote.
I hear my sister coming.
Oh,
I better take my mother to eat breakfast.
Oh, go, my friend. Have a beautiful day, my friend.
So we'll see you this coming Saturday and maybe Sunday. We'll talk again about life and death.
Post on Facebook, on my Facebook or on my chat, the site for the meetup.
And I'll watch. Okay, and I'll watch some more of your of your videos that you posted.
Yeah, that's for you to learn if you want. Those aren't my work. I'm just passing on other people's work. I find them fascinating.
All right. Thank you
Ciao,
very much
Jay. Have a beautiful day, okay, my friend?
for the discussion. Bye. So that was wonderful. I better go give my mother breakfast. I've I've been a bad boy. She's been sleeping all this time. Ooh, that was fascinating. Talking with Dominic and having him share all uh his thoughts on everything. Okay. So until next time, when we do another wake up and think clearly. Bye.